जो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह पजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह गुर सेवा ते भगत कमाई तब ये मानस देही पाए इस देही को सिमरै देव सो देही भज हर की सेव सो देही भज हर की सेव भजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह.
Welcome, friends, to another special podcast in the Holy Truth series, given as always in the name of the Supreme Lord, who once again wishes to impart the very highest truth of what many call God, life and creation, to the sincere seekers of the world, especially for the modern age. That's further supported by the Holy Masters, perfect saints and noble mystics of Sant today. Now this high truth of the ages is the noble path of Sant, or path of the true saints, also known as the universal truth, true spirituality or true religion, that is so graciously gifted to seeking humanity by the great holy masters, perfect saints and noble mystics in every age, who themselves are the true representative of the Supreme Lord even today. And although little known among the masses, once encountered, a sincere truth seeker can easily recognize that this noble path or true way encompasses all true faiths and beliefs, as the noble source of all, details of which can be found in our humble literature, spiritual centers or YouTube channel, as well as the Holy Discourse series of ISTAuk.com, among other Sant sources from around the world. But before I begin today's session of spiritual questions and answers and satsang, I would first like to make a short introduction about who we are and what we represent here today, especially for those who don't already know. While for those who do, then please forgive my repetition. I hope to be brief. We are the International Spiritual Truth Association, or ISTA for short, and although now global, we recently set up in 2016 in the UK by request of the Holy Masters of the day, who derived their authority from Great Master Baba Savan Singh Ji of the holy lineage of Sant in India, the Levant and Persia. As such, we are a spiritual education centre, commissioned to provide the very highest truth of Sant to those who wish to know. Thus, we simply build upon the work of the more traditional methods currently available elsewhere. In this way, our given mission is simple: to tell the full truth about true spirituality or true religion from the Supreme Lord's point of view, especially now in the modern age, while also correcting the confusions of the past and even that of the present about what is the real truth. But this high teaching is not new. It is the age-old path of true spirituality, known today as the holy truth of Sant, which in fact has been discreetly taught throughout the ages to the most sincere seekers of the time, alongside the more familiar religious or philosophical teachings that we all know of. Indeed, Holy Masters tell us that the simple teachings of mass religion and mass philosophy, or even mass science, are only there to elevate the masses to the vision of higher truth-seeking, so that they can understand and ultimately practice true spirituality or true religion, with all the love, grace and wonder that such a gift entails. Now for those who do listen and take heed, Holy Masters tell us that they are indeed the most fortunate ones of humanity. As for myself, I am a humble servant and sincere devotee of the very highest truth of Sant for many years now, who has given his life in the service of the true Lord, as well as to the Holy Masters of today. As such, I do not seek any recognition, praise or reward, as I only act with the authority and by request of the Supreme Lord itself, as well as that of the Holy Masters of today, to simply tell the full truth of God, life and creation to those who wish to know. I thus live in the Supreme Lord's will, and simply offer my humble demonstration, guidance and true knowledge to all who seek the same, especially in the modern age. Now, as a friend and co-traveller on this noble path to God realization, I only ask that you put aside my human form and instead listen to and take heed of the loving truth that the Supreme Lord has to offer you via this humble form, who has himself been transformed by the Holy Masters of today. Thus I represent the proof that truly anyone can rise above their given karmic role to become truly noble once again by the true Lord's grace, if only they earnestly seek it, no matter how wretched or difficult their life may have been. For the true Lord of all is not only compassionate for the suffering of humanity who seeks the truth, but also very merciful. Therefore, everything I shall share with you today is a gift of wisdom from the true Lord itself, for the sincere seekers of high spiritual truth, which I have been asked to share with you. But please do not attempt to praise or glorify this humble servant in any way, for you too are all divine beings undergoing a human experience in this lifetime. They may not yet be aware of this. Therefore, what is given to me truly and freely by the true Lord, I give to you the same. In return, I only ask that you open your heart and mind to the holy truth that the Supreme Lord and the Holy Masters have to offer you. There is no need to give up your current faith or belief, only to listen and explore and see for yourself the further truths that are hidden within you. For true spirituality is not a religion or a scripture. It is the birthright of every human being here on earth, no matter what their current background, belief or circumstances. Now for those who need further assistance, they may privately contact the main speaker directly via email or video by first subscribing to our valuable information service at ISTAuk.com and then requesting the direct contact details of our main speaker from our administrators. He will endeavour to answer all spiritual queries within 48 hours of receipt, but please be patient if he should take a little longer due to his busy schedule and sheer number of inquiries. Thank you. So, before we begin the satsang, the main satsang, I want to read a little introduction to you, which is important. Now, this satsang today, which is quite special, is called Revelations of the Highest Truth. So, my dear friends, welcome to this very special satsang that the Supreme Lord and the Holy Masters wish to impart to you this day, gifted to those who are fortunate enough to be able to listen to it, and even more fortunate are those listening who can understand and absorb and practice it, especially the secrets revealed here regarding their spiritual practice. Indeed, what will be imparted today is the exact awareness and true knowledge of the perfect saints, holy masters, and noble mystics since antiquity, that has historically been, by necessity, dumbed down for the noble masses via books and mass teachings, so as to not to overload their fragile minds that may otherwise become confused or even disturbed by such revelations, and thus even rebel against the Lord and his creation because of it, though, of course, suffer the consequences thereof. Therefore, historically, certain half-truths and tall stories have been extensively spoken about, written, or otherwise conveyed to the masses, including to less aware initiates, simply to stir their own inner inquiry, rather than providing information overload. Indeed, there is no greater knowledge in all the world, or in the next world even, than what shall be revealed today. Okay, now that this brief introduction has been said, let's begin the satsang. Before I begin though, I would first like you all to know that during my recent absence from worldly life, I have personally undergone a great transformation by the grace of the Lord, my own master, which followed my near-death experience in hospital and subsequent withdrawal. I am now completely absorbed in the grace of my Master and the Supreme Lord. My remaining life here on earth, therefore, is to be dedicated solely to the service of my Lord and Master, to whom I have surrendered wholeheartedly. Meanwhile, not to be a burden to anyone or society, and in keeping with Sant principles, I will also continue to serve the wider community through my knowledge of natural medicine and healthy living ideals, as well as continuing with my private humanitarian works. Now, regarding this transformation, I have to also tell you, after receiving so many inquiries from around the world generally, that this speaker, as a mortal human being, has not done anything special to attain this grace, apart from earnestly seeking with utmost sincerity the holy truth of God, life and creation, consistently and persistently, while trying to do no intentional harm through speech, thought or deed wherever I go. Indeed, Jesus the Christ of the Christian faith amply referred to this inquiring need before making true spiritual progress. For example, Jesus said, "Seek the high truth, and that truth shall set you free, not rituals or other things." He also famously said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God with all thy heart and all thy soul, and the Lord shall take care of the rest of your needs, even without you asking." Jesus finally says this, "How shall it profit a man if he should gain the whole world in riches and status, yet lose his soul in the mire?" Now, if one can uphold these noble values mentioned by Christ and the Holy Masters for just a little while, with willing determination, rather than seeing it all as a struggle, a ritual struggle, or miserable austerity, while respectfully performing their worldly duties given by the Lord, then they can attain the same grace as I did, for example. Of course, this feeling of self-improvement must first well up within an individual to allow them to yearn for higher truth, which then comes about naturally through the Lord's grace, when the time is right for them, of course. This then leads to a sincere effort, supported by one's continued association with the high truth, whether through reading spiritual texts, listening to spiritual talks, or keeping the company of noble spiritual practitioners, etc. The resultant striving for a truly spiritual and noble attitude to life, till their quest for the high truth or the true Lord becomes a need rather than a mere curiosity, assures one of success. It has worked for me, along with countless others throughout history and even today. So this is my real and personal testimony to you all that has resulted in the revelation I shall share with you today. Now, to understand the average human's predicament of fear in pursuing such a noble goal of high truth spirituality, I have recently learned a new term for this called FOMO in social media speak, which simply means a fear of missing out on worldly phenomena if one actively pursues spiritual practice. Of course, for those who have actually succeeded in their spiritual practice while living as a householder, this is clearly not the case, and is a myth propagated by the half-truth books and their followers, historically and even today, mostly written by well-meaning devotees of this cause, or nuns and monks, etc., who believe that severe austerity is the only way forward, and not through living as a householder, guided by the simple moral principles of do no intentional harm, either to oneself or to other living beings, nor to the planet that sustains us. Indeed, this latter statement should be naturally practiced already by all those who claim to be civilized, regardless of what is happening around them. So living as a householder to fulfill one's karmic obligations and dharmic obligations through moral or pious living is quite straightforward in true spirituality, and so not a problem. It doesn't let you miss out on living life in a moral principled way either. As the saying goes, treat others as you would have others treat you, which for the most part keeps life simple and peaceful. But if instead you believe in a law of the jungle that many atheists follow, then you're not living as a human being, but are instead living as a human animal, and thus would be treated as such by civilized society. So take heed, for as you sow, so shall you reap. Now, before I begin the actual satsang today, I have to further tell you that the burden of this full revelation that my Holy Master and the Supreme Lord has gifted to this humble servant has borne heavily in my heart for a little while now, because of its very revealing and ultra-clarifying nature, even for satsangis. As to whether it should be spoken about just yet, since historically the truly enlightened ones have chosen not to do so. But since the true Lord has given me permission, along with the ability to explain it all in a manner that most listeners will be able to understand, I will attempt to put this knowledge succinctly into mere words that reveals the incomprehensible truth that human beings cannot readily fathom, especially when their attention is so heartedly absorbed in their physical life. For many, or most seekers even, including the satsangis of a perfect living master, the magnitude of high truth to be revealed here is possibly going to be more than they can bear. However, if they have been given the opportunity to hear this talk, then somewhere deep within them they are searching for the ultimate truth, not the superficial truths or half-truths prevalent in the mainstream literature today. Hence, they should not worry if it all seems incomprehensible to their awareness right now, for hopefully the seed of the highest truth will be implanted within them upon listening to this revelation, for them to then nurture deep within. Indeed, this revelation for the most part makes better sense of true spirituality for the ready-minded in comparison to the vast majority of spiritual literature today. Meanwhile, for those who are ready, earnest, and in higher conscious thought, then simply absorb and enjoy, and put it into practice if you can. Now, in addition to this burden placed upon me, is the intentional or unintentional possibility that those listening to this talk may try to see me as some sort of enlightened guru or prophet for them, and thus begin to worship this physical form, as is customary in many religions or faiths. Please do not do so, for this limited ritual habit of yours benefits neither myself nor the listener, since you will discover today that you too are an equal participant of the high truth, even if not yet realized. For you are indeed the hero of your own wonder story, rather than attempting to look at another hero externally who has reached a stage of high truth awareness or enlightenment for themselves. Indeed, there are others in the world today who have been tasked to initiate and guide others back to their true origin as their role. Furthermore, my experiences and awareness, for example, can never be yours, as no two souls are exactly alike, but they can certainly point you in the right direction to discover that truth for yourself, and then hopefully join me in the true wonder of it all, in both this world and the next, since it can be a lonely experience when you are the only one of few who experiences the glory of creation from the higher Lord's perspective and understanding. Therefore, I am merely a co-traveller on this journey with you, as a true friend and participant associate in this lifetime, who has been given a task of revealing the high truth for your benefit, not mine, as selfless service or seva to my true Lord and Master, despite my previous heavy karmas and difficult circumstances, which simply serve as proof or demonstration that almost anyone, no matter what problems they may have due to their karmas and current sanskars, can do the same if the Lord wills it so. This will hopefully be reassuring for all those who struggle on the path of the high truth right now, that they too can overcome all the hurdles that prevent them from making true spiritual progress if they are ready to do so. In summary then, I am not authorized to give initiation to anyone, so please do not ask for it, unless the Supreme Lord should instruct otherwise at some point in the future, which, incidentally, I am thoroughly against, since this instruction would separate me from you all by putting me on a pedestal as something special, rather than being your true friend and co-traveller in this adventure, undergoing a human experience just like you. Therefore, I can only impart the very highest truth of God, life and creation with general support and guidance to those who sincerely ask for it. Meanwhile, for those who are already initiated by a perfect living master, then their own master will be the one who takes them back to such Khand, once they are ready, willing and able, of course. Thus, their own master will be their inner guide. I can only assist with that here on earth. Now, with this understanding all cleared up, let's continue with the satsang. The purpose of the spiritual books, satsangs, and the company of the holy ones, despite being incomplete, as we shall see, is to remind us again and again of what our priorities in life should be. They represent the records of those who have succeeded or are happily on the way, and thus can inspire us to do the same if we follow their example, of course, and not just read about them or listen to their talks, thinking that will enlighten us without the effort of actual practice. But if we don't use these facilities on a regular basis, then the mind will draw us out into the troublesome world of habit and routine, with resulting consequences. You see, the desire of the mind to seek peace and pleasure outside of ourselves during waking life leads one to abandon one's inner consciousness, to instead chase security or pleasure outside in whatever way one can. But through this chasing, we can never get true inner peace or joy. In fact, this habit of chasing worldly pleasures or security mostly leads to disappointment or gets us into trouble even. We may even believe that we can find peace of mind or lasting pleasure from things like wealth, status, family, relationships, friends, food, drugs, material possessions, or leisure activities, etc. but still we remain restless and discontent even after gaining some or all of those things. And it's even worse for those who cannot attain much of these so-called comforts. This is because deep within ourselves, our higher wisdom mind knows that this world and its phenomena can never be truly ours to enjoy forever, nor is the world truly safe and secure for us. At any moment, tragedy can strike and take us down with it, or a serious letdown can be sprung upon us, causing great distress, or a sudden loss can bring disaster or serious difficulty to our life. And all this can happen whilst in disbelief due to our perceived peaceful lives. Then compared to the centuries that have passed historically and those that will come in the evolving future, our life here on earth is otherwise insignificant or very short in comparison. Yet our life can still be profound and useful if managed correctly. You see, one thing for sure is that we cannot prevent aging, disease or death from overtaking us, despite any worldly privilege or knowledge we may have. But we can indeed make the most of our limited life here on earth if we know how, through learning from those who have succeeded, either historically or currently. Moreover, to support this quest, our higher or wisdom mind, even if not obviously expressed to us right now, already yearns secretly for the real truth and meaning of life, as well as lasting peace, security and joy, which it knows cannot be provided by the material world. What's more, whatever is scripted for us, our mind is destined to follow with one excuse or another. Hence, we are all here today, listening to this satsang, with whatever excuse we may formulate in our calculating lower mind. And that's very interesting, and thus something to really think about. Now let's get on with the main theme of today's revelation. So, what is the meaning of true enlightenment that all holy masters speak of? True enlightenment simply means that you know who you really are, your true or ultimate self, meaning your soul self, not just your mind self. This distinction separates philosophers and the mainstream religions of mindfulness from true spirituality or Shabad Bhakti. And for those who are truly enlightened, they not only see the beauty and wonder of the creation from the inside, but also on the outside. For them, the inside and the outside are the same, for all expressions of their origin Lord are true and wonder. Also, the truly enlightened, unlike religious enlightenment, do not try to distinguish themselves from others by assuming grand titles, wearing special robes, or using sacred symbols or other adornments. Nor do they perform rites and rituals, for they know that we are all equal parts of the whole or true Lord, and are thus not separate from other versions of the Lord, to be praised, condemned, or judged, then punished or rewarded. The truly enlightened further know that the true kingdom of God or true nirvana is actually found within one's conscious self, far beyond the realm of mind and matter, and that this state of awareness can only be attained through the actual withdrawal of one's outer consciousness from the senses of the body through holy meditation, in order to traverse one's inner consciousness towards the full higher awareness of the soul, which is part of the true Lord itself. During this process, such an individual discards their imposter self of mind and matter, thus attaining their pure state of soulfulness, eventually merging with their origin creator or true Lord to become whole again, bypassing by far the temporary hells and heavens of judgment and reward, or mindful nirvana of the mainstream religions. And finally, the truly enlightened do not rely upon any scripture or ritual law to follow in order to maintain their enlightenment, since they are above the law of the mind and body once they become pure soul, while at the higher level they are one with their creator origin itself, and therefore know the real truth that cannot be limited, cannot be limited by mere words or rituals, but has to be experienced directly by following the noble teachings of a competent, living representative of the true Lord of Supreme Consciousness, termed a holy master, perfect saint, or noble mystic, to guide them both on the outside and on the inside towards their own enlightenment. That is the meaning of true enlightenment. The problem is that mainstream religions have forgotten their spiritual core of their teachings and have become philosophies of the mind, which they often mistakenly call the soul in some of their scriptures. They therefore misidentify themselves with the body and the mind, and then go about promoting judgment, duality, and reward or punishment ideas that leads their followers to temporary hells, heavens, nirvana, or rebirths, but not to true and everlasting salvation or enlightenment, despite their proud claims. Thus, they replace holy meditation and inner awareness with outward prayers, chanting, rituals, etc., alongside body adornments of robes or ashes, the tough austerities of growing long hair or shaving their heads, with periods of fasting or long walks in pilgrimages, coupled with other harsh rules that proudly separate them from their fellow human beings and so on, thinking that in order to attain such a high prize as the Lord itself or their own salvation, that surely they have to be sacrificed or tormented first to mimic what we have to go through in mainstream society in order to attain anything worthwhile, such as passing exams, getting accredited or winning trophies, etc. But if their Lord or leader is the symbol of love, peace and goodwill, then surely they would not want to further punish or torment their beloved creations anymore, since their creations or beings are already suffering in separation from the truth of their origin, love and bliss, and are thus already living in spiritual darkness that befalls the state of human birth. Yet in recent times, following their founding, the unenlightened self-imposed or elected leaders of mainstream religion, who have often worked hard or struggled bitterly to get to that status, naturally want recognition of this fact, and thus promote the hardships of doctrine, just to reinforce the point that only struggle and austerity can save you. Yet the humble representatives of the true Lord are loving comforters, guiding their followers peacefully towards their goal in silence and solitude, while those same followers continue to live as active though pious members of society in order to maintain a society way of life that benefits everyone, since human beings cannot survive or thrive on their own. So I hope that answers the many questions regarding this confusing matter. Let's now continue with the rest of the satsang. When one misidentifies their true self with their body, and takes their body and mind as their real self, they make a huge mistake. For they start to experience the physical world as their only true reality, thinking there is nothing else but the material world. Yet the physical world does not exist for those who do not experience a physical body, such as those having a daydream experience, an astral projection experience, an actual dream experience, a meditative experience, or a near-death experience, or are indeed comatose, etc. It is only because you are aware of a physical body that you know it's there. These are all examples of how easily we can lose awareness of the physical body and have a spiritual-like experience rather than the expected blank experience. Indeed, the mere fact that all this is possible in the first place, and is so easily achieved, where one can recall and be aware of that experience consciously, points to the fact that our real self, the one having this out-of-body or superconscious experience, must be our spiritual non-physical self. This experience that we have all had in one form or another simply proves that we have more than one dimension of existence within us. Else, how could we remain in any state of conscious awareness during those experiences if our consciousness could not exist beyond the physical body? Ordinarily, we would just become blank or unconscious when not being aware of our physical body and its senses. Now, both scientists and philosophers struggle with this dilemma, yet religion and spirituality understands it well. But that's not all. When we have a spiritual experience without the physical body, such as through holy meditation, and thus reach the astral or spiritual form of our existence, we will see that the 5 sense perceptions that we know on earth are greatly enhanced there, and that they form a spiritual sense perception body that is our actual form in the astral realm. So the senses of our physical body are greatly limited in comparison to our astral form. When we experience our astral form, we instantly recognize it as our own self, just like we recognize the physical body when we wake up from a dream. This shows us that we are multi-dimensional beings having a physical experience here on earth, but also that we are not limited to that physical experience if we choose to investigate further. And if we're able to go beyond our astral form and enter the region of pure thought, which is experienced by a thinking machine or adopted character mindset, then we will see that our mind or character form is also a sort of body that can assume any shape or form, yet retain our mindset identity at all times, without needing a physical body or a sensory body to operate. This dimension of our existence is called a causal form, since it is the origin of the mindset that we have become identified with in lower karmic creation, where all the individual minds are created or caused into existence in accordance with the Lord's script for each and every one of us. So, what is the true nature of our given mindset? The mindset of our karmic existence in the 3 realms of karmic creation is a creative power, and as such believes it has free will to create anything it desires at that level of awareness. It can think about or ponder upon and then analyze anything it experiences. It can even emulate, though imperfectly, the soul's free will ability in the form of making decisions of what to do from the limited choices available to it. Since the mind has no idea of what it is like to have true free will, it takes its decision-making and analyzing ability to be free will. Now, the individuated mindset itself of each and every one of us is actually crafted from the universal mind or Kaal's character script, located at the top of the causal realm, while the adventures and dramas that are associated with each mindset are created by Mother Illusion or Shakti, the consort of Kaal in the Sant, for the character being played in karmic creation at that time. As a matter of record, I will remind the listener that Kaal is the ego attribute of the Supreme Lord of Satgurus, and is therefore labelled as a negative power in Sant, while Shakti is the illusion attribute of the Supreme Lord, labelled as Mother Maya in Sant. Now, the scripted mindset, entranced by Mother Maya, is naturally limited in power and scope to the character role of its scripted story. But the ego of the character mind refuses to accept this fact, and instead thinks it has unhindered free will through its ability to make choices from the choices made available to it via its script. What makes it all work is that the ego of the character doesn't want to question why the choices are limited for some, are less for others, or more for others still. It just wants to go along with it. Moreover, this illusion by the mindset that it or we has actual free will causes it or us, for example, to believe that we can make our own decisions freely and perhaps even mold our own destiny too, thus achieving or failing at certain things through our own efforts, via our ability to make choices and to indulge in chosen efforts. The consequence of this belief is that we therefore cast judgment upon our own performance, either boastfully or sorrowly, as per outcome, as well as upon others. Hence, the case for judgment and karmic consequence begins. Indeed, in ignorance, the mindset happily subscribes to the idea, as it gives the mind a focus of reasoning to either improve itself or indulge in self-pity, in order to give its existence some meaning and a purpose. It is all well-engineered, and a well-engineered trap of chasing endless dreams and facing endless consequences that keeps the soul trapped in endless cycles of births and deaths, till it is rescued by the Supreme Lord, our own higher self, at the allotted time. Now, looking at our true existence from the very highest level, we are actually and ultimately the ocean of truth itself, formed into a drop in order to undergo a particular experience. We never left the ocean of such kind. We just became condensed into a drop for the sake of having a separatist creation experience, each from a particular angle. When every angle is covered through the formation of infinite drops, then creation becomes a marvel. So let's look further into this remarkable truth. But first, let's start with what has become the topic of great debate in science, philosophy, and religion recently. That topic, which is a question I get asked frequently too, is, what is consciousness? This question is asked because it is the very root of all life forms in existence today, including us, and so it is the essence of all philosophical, religious, and spiritual quests too. Understanding this existence allows one to contemplate on the very nature of creation itself. So let's examine this question more closely. In simple terms, the answer is that consciousness is your true higher self or soul at our level of awareness, and God itself at ultimate awareness. It is a state of awareness that can either be complete or partly obstructed by phenomena. The greater the veils upon it, or the greater the distractions witnessed, the greater the ignorance or mystery of it. But let me quote a famous Hindu mystic called Ramana Maharshi, who lived in the very early part of the 20th century. He answered this question very beautifully to a sincere inquirer, and what follows is the answer that took place at Maharshi's own ashram in the sacred hill of Arunachala in Tamil Nadu, South India. Maharshi said, "When you ask what is the nature of consciousness, then I would ask you, who is the one actually asking the question? Who is the one who really needs to know? The answer, who is that ultimate one exactly? You search for consciousness or God consciousness as if it were an object of discovery. You imagine it is something that you can reach through physical or mental effort, like the light of knowledge suddenly falling upon you, or some divine vision presenting itself to you, etc., through your effort. But that is not how it works. Let us start with what pure consciousness is not. Pure consciousness is not the body, for the body you had as a child has gone. The cells have changed, the skin has aged, the state of its function has declined, so it is not the same body today. The flesh you called yours, or the flesh you call yours today, is not the flesh you called yours 10 years ago, nor is it the flesh that will come 10 years from now. But the one who witnessed the child's body, the one witnessing its body now, and the one who will witness its body in the future, is self-consciousness. And has that witnesser or consciousness itself ever changed, despite these outer changes? The answer, of course, is no. The witnesser feels the same, unaffected by the changes of its garment of the body. The body itself will age, decay, and die, but the witness to all this remains untouched. So your consciousness is clearly not the body. Consciousness is not the mind either, for the mind is yet another layer of garment over and above the body. That is a thinking machine. So the mind is ever changing too. Thoughts arise, thoughts dissolve. Yesterday you had thoughts that are gone today. Tomorrow you'll have thoughts that do not exist yet. But does the vast sky of pure consciousness, under which this body and mind parade themselves, ever go or change? The answer is no, as the observer, witness, or consciousness remains the same. So thoughts too change or disappear, while the actual you, or conscious observer, remains the same, as if a witness to all this activity. Even if the mind throws emotions into the mix, the observer remains constantly present and aware, though unaffected, even while the mind is happy or in turmoil. The consciousness that is aware of all this just remains constant. Indeed, just like the sky here on earth, it is untouched by what passes through it. Storms may come and go, hot sun may burn forests to the ground, freezing cold winds may plague a winter, but the sky remains ever the same. So too is the case for pure consciousness. It is like the sky, bearing witness to all that happens beneath it. Great cities may be built and then destroyed. Migrating birds or beasts may roam the sky or the land. The land itself may change through earthquakes and volcanoes, but the sky is always there as a witness to all this, unaffected, and does not take part in it all, nor does it weep or celebrate any of it. The sky is just there, bearing witness to it all. So, just like the sky, your higher conscious self is the presence that never alters. The body of the child and its experiences are long gone. The emotions you felt last year have dissolved. The eyes that bore witness to all this has changed and aged. But has your consciousness ever moved or changed? No, it has not. Consciousness is not an experience either. It merely bears witness to experiences. Joys arise and fade, pain comes and goes, peace arrives and leaves, but the one who witnesses these experiences through conscious awareness has never changed, come or gone. That one is your consciousness. But how do we connect with this higher version of ourselves? In truth, you cannot find it that way, for you are it. Just like God consciousness cannot be found separate from you, only unveiled through higher awareness, the same applies to your own higher self or consciousness. Searching by means of the ever-changing mind and body, with one's ego driving this search, saying to itself that it is done doing the hard work and so should be rewarded with visions or enlightenment, is futile, which is why so many spiritual or religious practitioners fail by these means. Indeed, you can start by appealing to your higher or God-conscious self by simply asking, "Who am I really?" and doing so with such sincerity as if your very life depends upon it. A state of seeking which is only achieved through genuine persistence each and every day, both in thought for support and through holy meditation for achieving inner awareness, till you become utterly exhausted of this effort, yet continue to seek it, following which the veil of illusion is lifted and you become fully aware of your own true consciousness or soul by its grace. Then you will find that your true self is consciousness, which has never left you and was only ever veiled from the body and the mind. That was Maharshi's answer to this question. Therefore, the spiritual quest that we undergo is not a journey through places, but an expansion of awareness from a drop to the ocean. Let's now continue with the related topic of importance today, meaning, what is the relationship between individuated souls and the oneness of the Supreme Lord? What is the real relationship here? To answer this question more fully than has previously been explained in the spiritual literature, we have to first look at what is meant by our own totality or higher awareness. To do this justice, we must first look at the actual structure of Satgurus' true abode, our designated true home, and beyond, also known today as the fifth grand division or realm of creation. Now it must be understood that this level of existence is not a place by any means, nor does it contain any structural or behavioral substance, though it is mistakenly described with such in most spiritual literature, just for the human mind to be able to relate to it. But in truth, it is simply a state of pure consciousness that has neither structure, space, nor time. Instead, it is a state of near perfect stillness at 99%. Because of this, true bliss is obtained, since there is no notable agitation of elements or doings of any kind actually present. Only the love of the many individuated souls for each other and for the oneness of their true origin naturally exists there, which literature translates as the abode of divine love. However, like all other parts of creation, Satgurus is actually created, which means it originates from an even higher realm of consciousness known as ISTAuk, or the imperceivable abode, where individuated souls, though conceptually possible, are all in a state of true oneness, meaning unexpressed. This means that even greater stillness exists there, resulting in greater bliss or divine truth. Yet this region too is created from an even higher level of supreme consciousness, known as Agamlok, the inaccessible abode, where true oneness alone exists in super stillness, without any sign of individuation or activity. Hence, it is accessible directly by any of the individuated souls from Satgurus, unless those souls merge with it to lose their existence in divine love and bliss. This means that it is even more still at 99.75%, either than ISTAuk and Satgurus. However, it too is created from an even higher state of supreme consciousness known as Anamilok, or ultimate or nameless abode, where the ultimate oneness exists alone and in unmanifested state. Because of this non-manifestation state, the purest stillness at 100% or non-agitation of any kind is obtained, where even oneness has become like nothingness or unmanifested. Yet it still exists as a potential. In Sant, the state of oneness found here is known as the Supreme Lord or Supreme Consciousness, and is the ultimate destination for all souls in creation. However, this end-level theme of Sant still exists in some form, as a framework for future creation. Therefore, this level of consciousness origin is created too by yet another and the highest form of something. This something, or final state of non-existence itself, is simply known as the level of the Holy Truth, because only truth or isness both exists and doesn't exist at the same time. Indeed, any perception of existence doesn't exist there, not even consciousness. Yet every possibility of existence is conceptually or latently present. Therefore, it is a state of true nothingness, where all possibilities of existence latently exist without limitation, giving it the characteristic of being something. Indeed, this state of the Holy Truth, unlike the levels below it, is truly eternal, self-created, and self-existent. Therefore, it has no state above it, nor is there any framework or limitation associated with it. In fact, there are no words or thoughts or expressions that can even describe this state of non-existence. Therefore, the perfect saints, holy masters, or noble mystics of such kind do not try to do so, nor do they hardly refer to this state of existence, since knowledge of it cannot be fathomed by any means, and is therefore meaningless. Now that this explanation of such kind at its levels above have been explained in brief, we can now look at what happens in such kind itself to answer the former question of the relationship between individuated souls and the Supreme Lord of Oneness. You see, the chief function of the Satgurus level of supreme consciousness and awareness is that a form of creation based upon spiritual desire, love and bliss can actually take place, with the source of oneness being termed Satgurus, Akal Purush, or True Lord. Now this state of oneness was created simply for the sake of having a creation experience. This means that it is infused with spiritual desire at the very highest level, pure and noble. With this inherent desire, Satgurus, the Supreme Lord or Supreme Consciousness, can translate that spiritual desire into a manifestation with the accompanying love, bliss and truth that the spiritual literature describes in various ways. This spiritual desire centers around the fact that Satgurus wanted, through its own power of will, to form a creation of some sort. It wished to expand its unlimited desire for love. Therefore, Satgurus willed a creation into being, by first dividing itself up into the many, from its inherent oneness, in the form of individuated souls, so that its divine love and glory may multiply almost infinitely. This is achieved through the creation of duality, in which the individuated souls of itself can love each other and their origin and love their origin, Satgurus, at the same time. So Satgurus, or the Supreme Lord of Consciousness, as we term it today, separated itself from itself in order to love itself, resulting in its further bliss. This means that the individuated souls of creation are of the same essence as the Supreme Lord itself, projected into infinite forms, though unrealized at the human level of existence, which is only made aware to them fully at the time of their reunion back with their source, Satgurus, via the guidance of a perfect living master, who is also an individuated form of their own higher self, meaning the Supreme Lord of Satgurus, unfettered or undisturbed by any outer coverings, limitations, or half-truths. In fact, when a holy master pulls us to their presence via unconditional love, it is because of the fact that they are in truth our own higher self, manifested separately for now as part of the wonder of the duality of creation, which was created exactly for this purpose. Now much confusion is found among high truth seekers, especially in Sant, about what is observed in the regions referred to in their spiritual literature. So let me clarify this matter now. Starting with the fourth realm of supreme consciousness of creation, I will address its true role or function today. In brief, this regional level of consciousness is actually part of Satgurus in many ways, but differs in the fact that, although referred to as the realm of the totality of consciousness by many saints, named Bhawan Gufa or Whirling Cave in spiritual literature, in which souls exist in a state of blissful though limited awareness, where souls are both individualized at its lower end and in oneness as a collective of souls at its higher end, which borders such Khand actually. So souls in that state have their awareness confined to that region alone, with all the expressions of the lower regions when focused upon, but not automatically so, as in such Khand. Hence we say it is somewhat limited in its glorious power. This all means that this level of consciousness, great though it is not our true home or origin, but is a transition point between its lower collective of souls and the true state of oneness of such Khand itself. In this fourth realm, the souls are gradually transformed or awakened from a state of individuation alone to a state of being connected with all other soul versions of itself in totality of awareness. However, even in its higher state, souls are not truly merged with each other to form true oneness at this level. Also, at this level, the collective of souls are not fully aware of such Khand, their true origin. Therefore, great as this region may be, perfect stillness or oneness with its accompanying bliss is not complete. Furthermore, as with all other spiritual regions or realms above the level of the lower karmic creation, there is no place, time or space there. Neither are there any real structures or activities performed there, nor any trials or hurdles to overcome. Those ideas are only told as stories for the limited mind to be able to relate to some meaning or learning there, which the spiritual literature variously describes as allegories. Therefore, there is nothing to do there except for the soul to enjoy its glory and to let itself be pulled to join the collective of souls in blissful union and peace. The souls at this point only look forward, never backward, for they are helplessly pulled or attracted to their higher self in a state of divine love. That's all that can be meaningfully said about this realm. Now below this great realm exists the third realm of liberated, individuated souls, termed Parbrahm, which means beyond Brahm, who is the creator of the karmic worlds, Brahma being the creator of the karmic worlds in karmic creation. In the third realm of consciousness, souls exist in a state of blissful awareness of their shining true glory, unencumbered by the baggage of the imposed character of mind, ego and karma that formerly trapped them otherwise. So they are free souls now. They are free of hardship, suffering and false pleasures in equal measure. That is found in the realm of karmic consciousness below this realm. Now, like the fourth realm, this realm exists as a transition between individuation alone and the realization that all other souls in creation are related to itself, intimately so, rather than just karmically so. But for this transition to take place, the soul passes through the famed Mansarava lake, as the spiritual literature describes it, which in truth is a region of intense light that looks like a lake of cleansing water, through which souls are prepared or released from their imperfections placed upon them, depending on which way the soul traverses this realm. You see, without these imperfections or stains placed upon them, that was decided in Satgurus along with all other co-participants, the perfect soul cannot enter the imperfect realms of karmic creation as an actual participant, but can only watch others as a spectator. Now, when entering this realm from the karmic worlds below it, all the stains that were placed upon the soul by its will in lower Parbrahm or third realm of super consciousness, by the very nature of the lower part of this realm, in order to allow the otherwise free soul to become limited and associated with a character in karmic creation, along with trillions of companions who all do the same for the sake of participating in the drama adventure of the karmic creations, cannot occur, and so the soul cannot enjoy the illusion of the karmic realms without this stain. At the bottom of the third realm exists a transformative region known as the sun or void. This normally impenetrable region of spiritual darkness marks the boundary between the pure realms of the soul and the impure realms of karmic creation or illusion. This region is where time and space is born, and is famously known as the abode of darkness or Kal, the negative power associated with the creation of the three karmic worlds, that remains hidden from both the karmic realms themselves and the glorious spiritual realms above it. I won't elaborate any further today about the actual role and manifestation of this Kal, that much of the spiritual literature already explains, but I will say this: Kal itself, though portrayed as such, is not evil or bad. It is just a karmic accounting machine that is imparted to all souls in the karmic realms, manifested as the accountant of characters. And these characters are known as Jeeves in the spiritual literature. Kal is therefore the source of all mindsets below it, who also created the whole karmic system of cause and consequence for the sake of drama and adventure to exist within the karmic realms. The descending or visiting souls via the imperfect stains mentioned earlier naturally attract the appropriate character and akashic record for their duration in the karmic worlds, lasting at least 3 million Earth years, following which souls are drawn back towards the true self via the aid of a holy master of the time, though they don't realize this at the time and think it is a choice they make of their own free will. This is because the mind or egos of the characters taking part in the divine sport or play of karmic creation like to feel that they are in control of everything, though in truth this is an illusion, simply believed because apparent choices exist there. Now, this all occurs via the ego, that mimics the true free will of the souls, and is the reason why most of the spiritual literature, including most Sant books, create confusion about what is to be found or observed in the spiritual realms above this physical realm, which is why Babaji of Bias, a great saint in the lineage of the Radhaswami Sant following, based in Dera Bias of North India, says we should burn all the books currently in circulation, because they are somewhat misleading for the sincere seekers of high spiritual truth and merely create confusion, which I agree with. Hence this satsang today. Firstly, I would like to address the misconceptions or confusions raised by the holy books or some historic public talks that many have now questioned about what is to be actually experienced along the journey back to their true home, to God realization. What actually happens at each of the stages of conscious awakening as a spiritual aspirant traverses the wider cosmos of spirituality towards their true home or supreme consciousness. In general terms, for each level of spiritual attainment described in most of the spiritual books, including Sant books, it must be explained that along with the actual experiences of physical life or the afterlife, for the entire 10% or trillions of souls in Satgurus who descended with you for the sake of having a creation experience as an alternative versions of your higher self or oneness, projected into the many which exists in lower Satgurus or Satgurus, in a state of both oneness and a many at the same time, that is created by the totality of consciousness or the Supreme Lord, as we term it today, is simply created for the role of experiencing the creation effect of duality. Then, in order to make this work, these souls are able to generate phantom beings or phantom scenery and activities as a backdrop for the sake of providing a fuller or richer regional experience for each level of consciousness that is awakened, attained during one's journey back home. Indeed, this duality format of creation that is created for the ultimate sake of having a love experience between the projected souls of the Supreme Lord, individually carried by each descended soul, including a package of phantom scenery, beings, and other activities that is uniquely projected automatically by each created mind or Kal, then later on by the soul itself, accompanying them in order to create a background of scenery, beings, and activities that, although don't actually exist in any form of reference, for they are just made up in order to give a greater sense of experience and completeness to our individual souls in creation, are observed in each region. This applies just the same for all the trillions of other soul versions of ourself that simultaneously created as part of our experimental group from such kind for interaction with each other, where each version is created with their own unique angle of viewpoint, given simply for experiencing manifested creation from infinite angles by our true higher self of oneness. Now this duality was created by our ultimate oneness self, by separating itself from itself in order to love itself even more, thus multiplying the divine love experience already present in our oneness form into trillions more loves. You could say that this is all a big love game going on, which when translated into lower or cruder forms of creation experience becomes somewhat dulled or transformed, eventually leading to crude concepts such as hate, lust or greed, and anger, and all its variations, that is experienced only in the crudest or physical realm of creation, which in truth simply is the opposite expression of love oneness, and divine connection that only exists for the ultimate experience of eventually discovering the true divine love behind it all, by each sentient being in time, thus appreciating that unity of love and self-awareness even more when descending one's consciousness into creation experience. Indeed, this duality of creation is individually created for an individuated experience for each participant, from the fourth realm down to the physical realm, that is projected by individuated souls themselves as part of the package carried by each soul for their unique experience of creation. So the additional set of phantom beings and their phantom scenery performing their activities that appear to be observed in each realm of consciousness or creation as background extras and scenery during our journey back to our true home or origin are simply not real, yet appear to be real in the background, which we can never actually interact with, just observe from the distance, somewhat like a creation backdrop, for completeness' sake, for the experience of that realm. Meanwhile, further confusion about what is actually seen or observed in each realm of creation that is provided in many spiritual texts, including most Sanmat books today even, of other beings doing their own thing in those regions that we can observe but not interact with, simply because they are phantom creations, yet who can apparently invite us to join them phantomly, is not what it seems in reality. Added to this backdrop of activity scenery is the idea that we have something to do, learn, or overcome in each realm, which again is not what it seems, but is perhaps written about in mere passing reference by those traversing those regions while in the human form, as their own unique experiences, simply given in an attempt to make even more sense of those experiential realms, for the sake of the ever-hungry minds of spiritual seekers here on earth, wanting to have a more comprehensible meaning to the idea of realms of creation being actual places in time and space, with corresponding activities, rather than being mere levels of experiential consciousness, that is written about for the uncomprehending mind here on earth to relate to, or to make sense of. Nevertheless, in the karmic realms only, there actually are other descending or ascending beings that we can interact with, if it is written in our divine script to do so, who are actually part of our wider group from Satgurus, traversing at various stages of experiential awareness. This is because they are in truth other versions of our true self, operating on different timelines, and are therefore at different stages of their experiential journey. Though all this is unknown to us at the time, until we reach the top of Trikuti, or three peaks, representing past, present and future, or creation, sustenance and destruction, of the mindful creation of the causal realm, meaning the second realm, that is variously described in the spiritual texts in antiquity by those yogis who had their own unique experiences of them. They are often simply allegorical, or an attempt to explain the incomprehensible to the feeble minds of the masses here on earth. So to summarize here, as the hero of your own individuated story or adventure in any moment of creation experience, created by your own unique viewpoint, are the phantom beings and events generated by each mindset that only appear or exist when you or another projected soul version of yourself undergoes a particular experience. It is much like the green background screen known in filming circles today that allows you to create any image of your background for a fuller observable effect. but which is not real. For example, I could be sitting in this satsang hall talking to you with the real background of the wall behind me while this event is being filmed, yet the wider audience not present here via digital media transmission would appear to see that I'm sitting in front of the Taj Mahal in India, or that I'm travelling through some mountain scenery while sitting in this chair, or that I'm talking to you while angels with accompanying backdrop hovering around in the background, when that is all not true. Similarly, we may have seen such generated images of ourselves with different selected backgrounds on our phone for artistic expression. Well, it is just like that. So the backdrop to all these regions as we travel through it is made up of phantom scenery and phantom beings that are generated from our own experiential need to travel through those regions with meaning and purpose. Similarly, all this talk of multiple versions of our story and outcome, known as permutations, where all possibilities exist at the same time, that some scientists, philosophers, and even religious teachers speculate exist, are in truth only phantom possibilities that are conceptually possible but not real in any sense, till activated by the presence of a soul there. But we will look into this a little more later on when talking about destiny. Next time you look at the marvel of creation itself, and then at your family, friends, associates, or enemies even, you are in fact looking at your own manifestation or interpretation of creation stuff, as well as your own alternative selves in others. So just take a moment to marvel and think about all that. So how does our experience of reality equate to actual reality? One of the fascinating experiences for those who meditate well and reach the astral realm is to see that everything happening in the physical world first unfolds in the astral realm, including all the people we know, in a spiritual form, around 5 to 10 minutes before it happens on earth. In other words, you will see the original version of our physical world clearly and more enhanced there before it happens physically, since the physical world from that viewpoint looks like a fuzzy dream. Yet when our attention is here on earth, it all looks very real to us. So much has been already said about this life in the astral realm, so I won't go into that any further today, but just to give you an idea that everything we see here first manifests in the astral realm, which we can see when we travel there, before it becomes manifest here on earth. Therefore, it can be said that the astral realm is like a projector that contains the actual film footage, while the screen in the cinema is the physical world, where everything then is projected and played out, but none of it is real. Looking further into all this creation stuff, let's start from the beginning. Through the will of the Satgurus, individuated souls are projected from the state of oneness in Satgurus into the many, creating countless other versions of itself, all of which never actually leave Satgurus. At the same time, a common theme-based projection of a form of creation, as inspired by the collective of souls just created, is also manifested, in which all these souls can, as a collaborating collective, participate in. This creation initially comprises of the fourth realm of the soul collective, in which they all recognize each other as alternative versions of themselves. Then the third realm of individual souls comes into existence through the will of Satgurus collective souls, via its creation attribute termed Brahma, coupled with its ego attribute termed Mahakal, in which souls now see themselves as separate individuals in the third realm of individuality. Then, from the bottom of that purely spiritual third realm of existence, where souls are clearly made to feel as unique yet all-powerful individuals, who subsequently obtain certain imperfections upon each soul that is needed in order to allow them to adopt and integrate with an imperfect mindset character at the karmic level of creation, based upon the common theme of the divine grand play formulated in Satgurus. This imperfection upon the soul allows the otherwise perfect soul to then participate in imperfect illusion of karmic creation that is to come, as if it was real. Allow me to briefly elaborate. As a purely spiritual being or soul existing in a state of unlimited higher awareness, where there is no space, time in Parbrahm, only states of conscious awareness exist there. A question arises as to how do we actually experience life as a human being on planet Earth, limited by space and time, which appears so real to us. How do we get to that state from the state of pure conscious awareness? Well, this is how it works. Once the soul has adopted a mindset profile, initially just conceptually when in lower Parbrahm, as a mere potential at that point, then this mindset or character has to become active or alive, so to speak, in order to become our new false identity. This happens through the empowerment of the adopted mindset or character, through personal association with the life-giving power of the soul, that occurs only in the karmic realms that follow next. Therefore, the collective of souls invokes Satpurusha's ego attribute, known as Kal or universal mind, or the negative power, to create the three karmic realms of creation. Now, the ability of Kal, the ego attribute, to imagine or create karmic illusion, based upon the given script for each character, begins naturally at the top of the causal realm, or second realm of Kal's karmic creation, through the attribute of Brahma for creation material, and its own ego attribute to create the perfect illusion. Kal then becomes the negative protagonist at this point, turned universal mind, and is activated through the script by all participating souls that were created in Satgurus to descend into the new karmic creation. But this imagination potential of illusion, however, is limited to the mindset script assigned to each soul, for the soul's adopted character to operate within, which in turn awakens a coherent and ordered set of experiences set out in a timeline sequence to create the dramas and adventures we experience today. But how are we actually experiencing all this when looking at it all from the higher or soul perspective through the regions? Well, starting from the higher perspective, it can be explained this way. Once the mindset has been chosen by an individual soul and then activated, then the power of the mindset's imagination faculty as an empowered character projects before it a personal version of creation background, plus phantom beings, etc., which the thinking machine of the mind then creates 5 created senses to pick up and validate or reinforce the sensation of duality existence of a character in the human form here on earth. This validation satisfies the mindset, which then goes on to operate as if it was self-created, self-determined, separate from others. Now, this focus of imagination or creativity turned a character based upon the great script it must follow, places itself at the center of its story, as the hero of its own adventure, you could say. Now, because this happens so naturally and flawlessly, when looking at it from the veiled human perspective, who has wholeheartedly identified itself with the adopted character it is playing, then the whole show and its experiences seem absolutely real to it, meaning to our newly acquired character self, while the soul itself looks at it all in marvel as a spectator of the whole show from the level of Parbrahm. Furthermore, all characters now share with each other the common theme of this play, but at the same time we each place our focus of attention on the particular character we are playing as a participant in a great play, which then automatically blocks any ability of the participant to see the whole show as a spectator, meaning the reality behind it all. It is truly a marvel of deception, creativity and disguise by the soul to have projected and created an imperfect illusory experience of adventure in which many dramas unfold, both good and bad, for the full effect of illusory existence, by adding an illusory meaning to it all. That is why the perfect saints or holy masters all tell us that this play is just an illusion, and therefore things are not what they seem to be on a deeper reflection. They further tell us that when we are fed up with it all, truly so, then that process of rescue or gradual awakening into higher truths of it all begins, involving a holy master, orchestrated suffering, and an urge for truth-seeking, etc. This truth-seeking period eventually leads to holy initiation or baptism onto the path of truth by the holy master or perfect saint of the day. Then, upon initiation by a perfect living master, who reawakens our slumbering soul's awareness, this marks the beginning of our long or short road back to our true higher region and our actual reality. In modern times, this awakening process and subsequent guidance is called the path of Sant or way of the perfect saints. But in truth, there is no rigid path or structure to this personal awakening. But some rules of practicality do apply, of course, in order to follow the natural order of things that we are now used to in life, as participating characters in a great play. But actually, anything is possible, as each one of us is a unique aspect of the Lord, our higher self. Therefore, in truth, each one of us carries the path, master, and rescue package within us in our ultimate timeline of adventures and dramas, which may at times contradict the theme of the general books and talks given in Sant, which are really just examples of the concepts for the masses to comprehend a general idea. Yet they often take these examples very literally, especially when unawakened human beings seek answers or explanations for their life here on earth. That's why Babaji Bias recently said that we should burn all the books. They are just misleading, as mentioned earlier, since unenlightened human beings do not know how to properly use them wisely, so as to not confuse themselves. These books and talks, no matter how impressive or informative they may be, actually relate to the individual experiences of their authors as a guide for the rest of humanity, and not necessarily as determining the absolute or actual truth of the matter for everyone. That is why individual verification of the facts through deep inner inquiry and contemplation, known as holy meditation, is absolutely necessary for verifying what is claimed by others, including the holy masters themselves. Looking now at the topic of destinies and karmas, let us take a closer look. The spiritual literature says that we make our own destinies through the choices we make and the consequences thereof. But at these destinies, the character has to be created in order to undergo them, which was decided when we were all part of the ocean of Sat Nam as souls. Only at that point in creation could the individual drops of the ocean be formed in a particular way, meaning with a particular part to play in the divine play. That eventually leads us back to salvation through the pull of true or divine love, once the character is truly fed up with all the dramas of creation. The script determines when the timeline will kick in for the soul to be rescued and the master come into their presence. Now, the destiny we go through in life has several parts. Firstly, the soul or drop of the ocean is given a part to play. That part includes a thinking mind, a sensory body, and a physical body. Secondly, the script of the role we are to play is placed upon us, becoming part of us, not external to us, which gives us the impression that it is all of our own making as an individual. Then when we are placed by the script into a certain position in the karmic realms, that we continue to operate in form, then we act according to the script, thinking it is us doing the acting. We do this seemingly well, because when we are undergoing the drama and adventure of the character we are playing, a whole backstory is also created to justify the role, even though none of that backstory was actually experienced by our initial form and its entry into the karmic realms. When we look at human life, for example, we see that 75% of it is composed of the events and circumstances that befall us, which doesn't incur karmic consequences until we react to them, while the remainder of the time comprises of choice or decision making, which does incur karmic consequences for us. But due to the circumstances of our birth, meaning our country of birth, our parentage, our education, our environment, our upbringing, and our genetics, this goes a long way to determine how we look at life and deal with life events. The genetic part of our makeup refers to our inherited sanskars, or past impressions upon our mindset from previous experiences that occurred in previous births, giving us a set of natural-looking characteristics plus habits and traits. All of this is scripted. Now, with all these circumstances, we are operating as human beings, undergoing a particular destiny in this lifetime, termed pralab destiny in Sant, and are reacting to those events in a particular way that leads to further karma of future destinies, termed kriyaman destiny. While the back store of karmas and consequences waiting to be fulfilled, going back to eons of lifetimes, most of which we never lived, is termed sinchit karmas in Sant. Indeed, the whole setup is an elaborate trap that keeps our souls bound to the mind and its various bodies in endless cycles of cause and consequences, known as birth and death in various forms in Sant. What's more, our decision-making or reaction ability to the events of life we experience is based upon our given programming by the character we are playing. This character, when in human form, is infused with a conscience or belief or philosophy system that determines whether an action taken, a word spoken, or a thought occurring in reaction to life events is right or wrong, good or bad, just or unjust, etc., the result of which causes us to undergo the consequences of that belief, since we heartily subscribe to it, through the process of casting judgment, such as guilty shame or virtuous pride, whether upon ourselves or upon others. But once we can realize the illusion of the character placed upon our soul, and upon every other soul too, then we could rise above all this illusion drama and continue to live a karma-less producing life through detachment from the whole show, till the time comes to leave the karmic creation entirely, via the help of a powerful guide turned a holy master, perfect saint, a noble mystic in Sant, which is in truth our own higher self that has come to rescue us. Meanwhile, the punishment or reward of our reactions to life events can either come in this lifetime or be carried over to the next if this life is not long enough to clear those consequences. Many also think that we can atone for our karmic transgressions, but that is not the case. So-called good deeds, words or thoughts do not cancel out the so-called bad deeds, words or thoughts. Indeed, there is no mitigation or atonement in karmic law. That is why it is called harsh justice. And that is why you see many people having both good things happening to them in one area of their life and bad things happening to them in another area of their life at the same time. Through this observation, human life is observed to have a mixture of good and bad events in it, because a good deed doesn't cancel out a bad deed in karmic law. Moreover, if we had mostly good karma and noble samskars in our life, then we would not be born here. We would reside for a while in one of the heavens in the astral realm. Similarly, if we had to undergo mostly bad karma and animal-like samskars in our life, then we would have to reside for a while in one of the hell regions in the astral realm, till that karmic load is paid off through enjoyment in the heavens or suffering in the hells, following which we will come back into the physical form in our next incarnation, according to our script, and continue on from there. Human life, therefore, is composed of a mixture of both good and bad karmas, resulting in a corresponding destiny of good and bad events. That is how destinies are played out here on earth. However, despite the grim portrayal of human life here on earth, there is also one crucially good thing about being born human, and that is the fact that as human beings we can attain salvation or escape from the karmic trap of so-called good and bad, because it is the only life in which choices can be made in the entire creation. This is because total ignorance of what is to come next at every moment of our life only exists for human beings. They cannot see their lifetime, their future timeline, unlike other beings in creation, such as the astral beings, causal beings, and the pure unfettered soul beings in Pragram, who all have knowledge of their future. Therefore, as ignorant human beings, we have to make choices about what to do next, and dream about seeking answers to life, and asking for help to get free of all the nonsense of karmic creation, when we get truly fed up with it all. At that point, one is ready for instruction, support and guidance from a living holy master of the day to rescue them, which, as was said earlier, is of our own higher self, calling us back home. For this task, non-human life forms cannot help us, no matter how in tune we may be to animals, plants or insects, etc., for that is karmic law. So holy masters must be living as human beings. And holy masters tell us at this point not to dwell upon the karmic system too much, but to instead seek freedom from it all by attaching ourselves to one who is already free, namely a holy master, perfect saint, a noble mystic, who teaches the inner path of the soul and not anything external. Their path to enlightenment and salvation is termed Guru Bhakti in Sant or Sulit Shabad Yoga, based upon divine love and high truth, and not the intellectual concepts, austerities, or rituals of other systems. Their noble teachings involve one keeping a low profile by not overly trying to be too good to be true, nor seeking to act, speak, or think badly either. Their path is simply one of do no intentional harm, whether to oneself, to others, or to the planet that sustains us. In this way, one can become pious and quietly lead a spiritual way of life, simply following the instructions given to them by the Holy Master of the day, or through one of their or similar general writings regarding the salvation path of Sant, or even through seeking the noble disciples of the Master who have made sufficient progress to be able to help without casting judgment or misdirection. Meanwhile, there are many levels of masters here on earth who can offer you all kinds of benefits, from superpowers to heavenly abodes, from high intellectual knowledge to success in this world, from simple healing to supporting comfort. But true holy masters from such kinds level of awareness, who can guide us all the way back to our true origin, is very rare indeed. Maybe up to 5 may exist at the same time in the world, but most likely 3 or less. So if you can discover a master, a holy master, and he or she is willing to accept you as a disciple, then you are very fortunate indeed. It is said that when a marked soul or sincere seeker of the high truth is ready, then the holy master of the day will appear in their life as if by coincidence. So no direct searching for one is really needed then, as wandering the lands of the world looking for such a one can be utterly exhausting and still lead to nothing but the lesser masters of mindfulness or scriptural knowledge. Now many have asked about the Akashic records, so let me explain this briefly, very briefly. The mind in its universal form as Kal creates all the destinies and their timelines that we have to follow as individual mindsets or characters, the span of which can last for up to 3 million Earth years in countless forms of life, before we either escape the karmic trap while in the human form, or start another round of dramas and adventures as a related character permutation, since all permutations of each character is possible there to be picked up, as well as for all other character participants in the current karmic play. The records of all these characters in karmic creation, countless numbers of them in fact, are all there, and all their permutations or alternative versions are thus stored in the famed Akashic record at the top of the causal realm, much like a vast library, which one can visit through advanced basic meditation. Now basic meditation itself, that is practiced by many around the world, involves focusing our attention on a certain point till something happens, either outside of our body or within our body somewhere, which is a natural ability of the mind in order to see or experience what's there at that point, while the soul uses omni-awareness ability in all directions as its personal means of knowing, which occurs only within oneself rather than outside of oneself. So that's the difference between the two forms of meditation practiced today. Let's finally look at the correct meditation method for attaining higher awareness. In Sant, holy meditation at the third eye point within our head differs from regular focused meditation, as it involves withdrawing our consciousness to within ourselves to experience what is present there, rather than focusing our attention onto a point to see just that point and nothing else. So the power of attention via the mind and the ability to focus that attention are the two power tools that the mind has in order to imitate the soul's power of actual awareness in all directions at once. But since the mind cannot match the soul's ability to use awareness, it instead uses its focusing of attention ability as a substitute, which incidentally does benefit us in the beginning of our spiritual seeking, as we can use our attention ability to meditate or read books or have darshan, etc. But the mind's focus of attention versus the soul's omnidirectional awareness ability is one of the fundamental differences between the mind and the soul. Meanwhile, the power of focused attention allows us to highlight one thing and fade other things. For example, if we watch a movie and choose to focus on a particular character or piece of scenery on that screen, then we will notice that everything else just fades away, which allows us to enjoy that vision even more, just like zooming in, one could say. That is useful in meditation too, but only when first withdrawing our scattered attention towards the third eye center, and then just sitting there, waiting for the door or gateway to open for us. Through focusing our attention upon that door or gateway of darkness, while actually feeling that we are sitting there at the third eye center, looking forwards. In this way, both withdrawal of attention and the focus of attention come into play to make holy meditation successful. Indeed, success in meditation for initiates of a perfect living master is actually dependent upon their understanding of the important difference between withdrawing their attention to the third eye center and then focusing their attention from that point forward, rather than focusing their attention on the third eye center from a distance, without actually placing ourselves there first. This simple mistake accounts for the vast majority of initial failures in obtaining any true inner experiences in Sant. You see, by focusing our attention on the third eye center from the distance, rather than withdrawing our attention to sit at the third eye point, looking forward into the darkness will only allow us to see shadows or colors moving about there with occasional random sounds, rather than being actually present there mentally to enter the gateway to higher consciousness. The difference in feeling is this: when we look at the third eye center from afar, we still remain fully aware that we are sitting somewhere attempting to meditate, whereas when we withdraw our outward flowing attention back to the third eye center and then place ourselves mentally there, then we lose awareness of the fact that we are sitting somewhere in meditation, and so can wholly experience whatever is at that gateway close up. One method looks at the gateway from the distance through the mechanism of focusing from afar. The other method is a feeling of actually being there through imagination and withdrawal, which is what Sant teaches and the Holy Masters teach us. To patiently knock at the gate for gaining access to higher experiences. This is important to note because our seat of consciousness in the body, from which our attention flows out to the senses and the body, activate them is located at the third eye center. So, by placing ourselves mentally there, through imaginarily withdrawing our outward flowing attention back to its source, so as to feel that we are there within our head, so that our head space seems to be around us and the body seems to be below us, then we can proceed with focusing our attention forwards towards the gateway immediately in front and seeing what's there in the initial darkness. We should then keep our attention there for as long as we can, till grace comes along to open the gateway. At that point then, when we are truly ready, when we can cross the gateway to inner consciousness and enjoy all the wonders within that you read about in the holy books, though not exactly those same experiences, but one gets the general idea when we're actually there. As we can now see, this practice of Shurat Sabit Yoga and withdrawal of attention from standard meditation practice of focusing one's attention, in which one just looks at it all from afar, because rather than withdrawing their attention to within themselves, they focus their power of attention on the third eye center from the outside. Since their outward flowing attention is outside already, looking in, is the biggest difference. This is the fundamental difference, indeed, between success and failure in Sant Mat's holy meditation. Meanwhile, being truly ready means that we are prepared to die while living, meaning leave everything of the world behind, and then greet our Lord or Master within, no matter what the cost to us in this world, because we love the Master so much more than anything else in the world. That is how it works successfully. There is simply no other way to achieve this success. If we put anything else before our beloved Master, then we cannot cross the third eye center and have the real darshan within. Therefore, one can see that it is not very easy to get inner experiences, as so important are the conditions that must be met to attain this blessing. Hence, it is not for everyone. Only the most determined and sincere can accomplish this, because for them it has become a need rather than a mere curiosity. And this meditation technique is accomplished through using the power of our imagination to direct our attention inward until we are pulled further upward for the rest of the journey within, via the Lord's grace. Indeed, we don't have to worry about our progress once you reach the third eye center, since our Lord or Master takes over from there. As a final explanation, it must be noted that the pull to go further within comes via both the radiant form of our Lord or Master and the big bell Shabbat sound associated with them. Till that happens, the physical form of the Master is there to give us comfort externally, till we meet the real form within. Yet that physical form is simply a projection from our own mind that is shared with other versions of ourselves in the form of other individuals as an outer experience. And finally, to help those still struggling with their meditation to locate their third eye center, then there is a simple way to use the power of imagination to reach the third eye, as suggested by Great Master Baba Sawan Singh Ji of Dera Bias in North India. This is what he suggested. While your eyes are closed and you are sitting down in meditation, back straight and head up, raise your right hand to a little above your head and imagine that you are standing on the end of your index finger as a mini version of you. Then slowly begin to lower the hand till your fingertip reaches the level of your physical eyes. And then imagine that you jump into your head and land at the third eye center, and then begin to sit there on a platform facing the gateway within. One can try that to see if it works for them. Thus, in summary then, if we can use our imagination while our physical eyes are closed, for example, to imagine ourselves sitting on a chair on the other side of the room, enjoying the view through looking out of the window, then why can't we use that same imagination, which is a very real power actually, to place ourselves at the third eye center, and then to enjoy the wonders within? Well, that's exactly what the Holy Masters tell us to do in Holy Sant meditation. Now, to conclude this satsang, I have to explain something very significant about us all. And it is this: in truth, there is only one God, one being, one Lord. Yet we see so many apparently separate individuals here on earth, for example, that we, as unenlightened human beings, cannot comprehend the actual oneness of everything. So let me elaborate a little bit on this point. The real truth is that everything you see around you, including a people, is actually a part of the Lord itself, and therefore a part of you too. Everyone you see around you are actually other versions of yourself, which is why the karmic law works. If you harm anyone here on earth, or help anyone here, then you are in fact harming or helping yourself. This makes the whole law of cause and effect seem like perfect justice. But there is more to tell on this point. Each and every one of us, no matter how great or small we may feel, is actually an equal part of the Lord, the one Lord, and therefore is equal in the eye of that Lord. Furthermore, since there is only the one divided into the many, we are all the Lord itself in countless forms of expression. And when we go back to our source, we automatically become ourselves, our whole selves once again, or the Lord itself. There is no other Lord other than our own higher self. The only difference between our apparent individuation and our actual oneness is a matter of awareness. When we become aware of the One itself, we achieve this through simply expanding our conscious awareness, till the drop which exists inside the ocean becomes aware of the ocean itself, and thus becomes the ocean itself. Indeed, all the creation story and its adventures that I have spoken about today actually take place in the ocean of oneness itself, as mere confinements to varying degrees of apparent individuals playing every form, from bacteria to demigods and beyond, depending upon their level of contraction or expansion in the ocean of Satnam. Therefore, for every one of us, we are the only reality on our journey back to becoming whole again, because we are the One. One more thing about all this. Since we are all a part of illusory creation that has been created according to the will of the One, or ourself in complete awareness, then the script of creation is also predefined. This means that we cannot think, speak, or act independently at any place or point in creation. Therefore, no one is guilty of anything the divine script has allocated for them, and karma itself only exists when participants of creation believe in illusory duality, dividing everything they see into good or bad. In the same way, everyone's destiny is preordained, and so no one can change anything in the story, nor make any effort to speed things up or to slow things down, not even their spiritual progress. When Holy Masters tell us that we have to do this or to do that regarding our spiritual progress, they know full well that no one has any real choice in the matter. For the creation of choices is just an illusion, because no matter how many choices are offered to anyone, only the preordained choice will be taken, with one excuse or another that the mind may justify. Therefore, this idea that we are responsible for anything here on earth, including our own spiritual progress, through so-called effort, is a myth for the mind to continue working in creation, despite there being no ultimate reality to anything that is going on here. Similarly, Satgurus itself is created, as is Satgurus, and this too will end one day, And this Lord, our very own self in complete form, must follow the dictates of its own Lord in the next highest region of ISTAuk, and so on. So therefore, even the Supreme Lord, Satgurus, is subject to its own dictates, its own script. Now this is how the Holy Masters and all those truly enlightened ones see the creation, marveling at it all, and so play along with it, through telling half-truths, stories, and simple lies in order to make it work, especially here on earth. Now, the reason for explaining all this in clear intellectual terms and in English language in the West is that Westerners are now taking an interest in true spirituality in a more serious way, albeit in their own Western way of satisfying the intellect first. Therefore, for the most part, they do not adopt the Eastern way of spiritual practice through following intuitive faith, to then get an experience and worry about fathoming it later. Most Westerners say that they want to understand it all first, intellectually, and then get the experience later through defined spiritual practice, once intellectually satisfied. That's the way spirituality is in practice and have been practiced in the West, which takes far longer to achieve good results than via the Eastern method. So, although the spiritual practice is moving from the East to the West, where no longer the East will provide holy masters, they will only be provided in the West, we are entering a phase of high intellect, in which these holy masters will have to appeal to our intellect over maybe a couple of lifetimes more than is necessary before they even start practicing. So that concludes the lengthy satsang for today. I hope you can all get something special from this treat and thereby make good progress on the spiritual journey. So may the true Lord bless you all. Let's now proceed with the questions and answers for today.
Thank you.
Right.
The overall theme
Yes.
is living the spiritual way of life.
Right.
So I've got a few questions, and the first question is regarding Sant. According to Sant, how can a seeker live a truly spiritual way of life, maintaining Simran, Bhajan, and right living while fulfilling worldly responsibilities, so that one's inner attitude remains aligned with the divine will rather than the ego?
There are two possible answers to that, the very, very truthful answer and the half-truth answer. I'll give both to see which one appeals to you. Firstly, as has been mentioned in the satsang, you have no choice about what you can do. I can tell you do this and do that. It doesn't mean you'll do it. So on one hand, I could say to you, yes, try to find more time in your life to focus upon bhajan and simran. Try to make that more of a priority in your life. Try to put that above other worldly things. You might like to go out enjoying camping and hiking and gardening, right? When you should be doing simran and bhajan. But is anybody really going to do that? So on one hand, I could say, do all these things. But on the other hand, I could say, well, this is how it goes. If you are asking this question and you truly mean it, meaning you actually want to improve yourself, then that natural feeling will well up within you that will make you spend more time focusing on spiritual ideals rather than worldly ideals. Then no answer is necessary, because you'll be driven by your own feeling within. So there are two answers. One is it's not in your hands anyway, so carry on as you are, make the most of it, and when that feeling comes in, do it. Or I can make you feel guilty and say, right, you must do this, because if you don't, you're not going to have that inner glory, and you may have to come back in the human form in the next lifetime. So get on with it, or else. So that's what most of the books would say. But I, being a more liberal, understanding, enlightened one, can tell you, actually it's not in your hands. I would say this, do the best you can. when the feeling comes within you that you want to do your Simran and bhajan more, do it. Because then it has you get that feeling, that need. It becomes a need at that moment. If it doesn't happen, don't beat yourself up about it. But perhaps remind yourself, if you can, the importance of spiritual practice in this life through reading books or listening, just to inspire you. Don't take the books too literally, but just as an idea to remind you, yes, there is a path and there is an alternative way of existing. But believe me, when you're marked, the Lord has a very special way of treating people He wants to go within. Dukh, suffering. He slaps them. And the harder the slap, the greater the effort they make to get out of here. It really works well, never fails. It's the best method. So therefore suffering is the greatest teacher. A master can tell you all he likes, you'll never do it. How many times does somebody sit before the master, he says do this and do that, none of them do it. And he knows full well, he's just there to entertain the troops. Because behind the scenes they're being pulled at a certain pace. It's going on regardless of their effort. They have no say in the matter. Imagine if Satsangas did actually have any say in their spiritual progress. Nobody would be back home. But the fact that the master is gently pulling them from behind the scenes and then giving them some activities to do to occupy themselves with, so they feel, just for the mind to feel that it's doing something, so it can pat itself and say, well done. Yeah, or it can feel guilty and shame, I'm a really bad person. Either way, the same progress is being made. Now, obviously, it's nicer to have a positive feeling. It's nicer to go along with it and say, hey, I feel I'm doing something. Right? So the masters try to kind of give a more, let's say, positive angle to the whole spiritual proof. So they don't tell you the whole truth of it. Say, why are you asking me that? Nothing can be done. You have to just wait until time comes. But they said, no, make an effort, do this, do that. So the person goes back, he's added a bit more 5 minutes to his bhajan or his simran, and he feels really good about it. It makes him happy. Why not? It doesn't do anything for his spiritual progress, but because that's happening within automatically. Because remember, spirituality is soul to soul. The mind is an imposter. What can the mind do to help your soul? Yeah? It's like if my neighbour has a pile of food and he's stuffing his face, what can he do by eating the meal to feed me? He can't do anything. The concept of eating is there, but he's doing the eating and I'm doing the starving. So the point is that I'm not saying don't do anything, don't make any effort. What I'm saying is when the feeling comes within you, make the most of that, because it's rare. Most of the time we don't get the feeling. Really go with it. Think, wow, this is an opportunity. Get excited by it, because it's a genuine thing. It's a gift from the Lord. That feeling is a gift to do something. When the feeling's not there, you know what? Do some harmless activity. Go gardening, talk to the wife, play with the dog, right? But try to not do any harm. In other words, try to maintain a good, pious way of thinking. Try to remember the Lord, even just thank the Lord, because if you can't actually do anything, then thank the Lord for the pleasures He's given you externally. Petting the dog, talk to the wife, doing the gardening, whatever. Say, thank you, Lord, for this activity. In some way, you're still making a connection with the Lord, even if you're not doing your bhajan, simran, or meditating. So that would be the best advice I could give you.
Thank you. So don't beat upon yourself, really,
no,
if you're not.
Never do that. It's not in your hands. Never feel guilty and shame. See, Carl uses this guilt and shame to keep you down, to stop you doing it. It's a clever method, a cunning method. Never indulge in that.
Thank you. Got a few questions regarding the Holy Truth. Why can't the Holy Truth be accessed and understood by the mind's thinking, rationality, and reasoning ability alone?
All of those things involve the mind. The Holy Truth is even beyond the grand divisions of the fifth realm. It cannot be accessed by us. So, if we're looking at Satchkhand, our true home, then yes, there's a prescribed path. The idea is to withdraw our attention within ourselves, connect with our own self-consciousness, and let that current ride us back home through the help and guide of a holy master that presents itself there once we're initiated. You can go some way without initiation, by the way. Initiation is not absolutely necessary for a certain part of his journey. But to cross into Parabrahm, you do need to be initiated. The reason for that is because meditation doesn't work beyond the second realm. Meditation only takes you up to the top of the causal realm. Because who's doing the meditation? The mind. So meditation is for the mind, to occupy the mind while the soul is being pulled. In order to get to Parabrahm and cross Parabrahm, is the master who's pulling you. According to your script, according to your timeline, it's not in your hands. You can meditate until you're blue in the face, you'll remain at the causal realm. Yeah? So from the causal realm, crossing the void, the sun, to Parabrahm, or the realm of the pure soul, is only by the master. You can do nothing about this. Right? In fact, the only thing you should worry about is getting yourself to the eye center. Once you can place yourself and sit there in the eye center, as I've described in detail, and maintain yourself by withdrawing your attention into that space, so you're sitting in your head, and you can see or feel the head all around you, and you can feel that the body's below you, then you lose awareness of the body. You lose awareness of the outside and become aware of the inside, and that means you can see the gate very clearly. And when you can see the gate very clearly, and the karmas are in line, you know, your time has come according to your timeline, then the door becomes opened, and then you have inner darshan. So there's a very specific way in which to meditate correctly to get to this point, but only those who have heard it today now understand this difference. The vast majority of satsangis are not meditating correctly, and therefore, but they're not meant to either, because in this lifetime they're not meant to have any inner experience. They have to come back. So for example, the vast majority of, say, Babaji's Sangha, he's initiated them by proxy. That means, like Ishwar used to say, there's a list A and a list B. People on list A will go home with that master. People on list B will have to come back and be initiated by another master of the day, who then they will feel a pull to. So because Babaji's got such a large Sangha, over 5 million followers worldwide, he's lowered the bar to initiation greatly. And that's just to get people on board, knowing full well that he's not going to be their master. And all they go to see him as a spectacle. What is he wearing? What is he looking like? How does he walk? Did he look at me? Am I now going to suddenly get a successful business? Am I now going to have a baby boy? Or other things that they look at. Who knows what they're looking at when they're looking at the master? But it's certainly not truth. So very few are concerned with the truth, and they want to know the highest truth. Very few, I have to say. Among the 10% of Sangha who get initiated, only 3% will seek the truth. It's such a low number according to Guru Nanak, and it is roughly true. Very few. If you can find somebody on the path who's a genuine truth seeker, who's really genuinely interested in pursuing the truth, wow, you're very fortunate, you've made a friend. Make them your friend. Get their company and stay together, because you can support each other.
Do you think you've burst their bubble because they think they are, by saying that?
Well, people who are initiated think that they've done it. You know, they're initiated, they go to seva, they play along with the whole thing. They're not truth seekers, they're still full of anger, greed, jealousies. You poke them and they react. Yeah, immediately. They judge, they're the worst judge. When I used to go to Haynes Park, how many judgments were there? Look at him, look what he's doing, look what she's doing. I said, what is it to you? You're here for yourself, just enjoy it. They didn't want to enjoy the experience. They wanted to make themselves proud or miserable. They missed out on the whole point. You know? And when they're not judging, they're thinking about what they're going to have for dinner tonight while they're doing the seva.
So
they're not in the moment.
Yeah.
They're not actually doing anything spiritual. And when the master appears to give darshan, so look at master, his beard looks so beautiful, his bug, his turban looks so nice, and he's wearing Nike trainers and this and that. Right? And that's what they're thinking about. So the moment they get up, they start chattering amongst themselves. Whereas some people you'll see, very few remain sitting, contemplating, absorbing the moment. Those quiet ones, you know, and we see, why they're sitting there, why don't they get up? We all want to get out. Right? But they sit there for a moment, you know, and there's very few, very, 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 very few. You know, maybe 5,000 people might turn up to, say, satsang by master. And out of those, 2 or 3 will be genuine and sincere. It's a really rare event. In fact, I know personally that most people who've had inner experience no longer go to Seva or to Haynes Park, because it's just distracting for them. All the egos competing with each other, the hustle and bustle. Because they have inner darshan, what do they need the outer master for? So they enjoy themselves. That's why it's so difficult to find a real enlightened aspirant in the crowd, because they wouldn't be in the crowd.
Sure.
I'm telling you that. People who are starting their journey, you might get somebody who has glimpses and something along the way, but anybody who's a Sevadar there, no matter how high up, without mentioning any names, right to the very top, don't necessarily have any inner experience. There's hardly any here in the UK, and a few in India. That's how rare it is. And just because somebody's appointed to a certain position, it doesn't mean that position means that they have to have an inner experience of awareness. They might have been shown some glimpse, or they might have a certain feeling of confidence that Master has appointed them for that role. But it's just a role. The mind and the body are playing the role. There's no spiritual merit to any role. Yes?
Can I put you on the spot?
Go on.
So why did you go to Haynes Park? Because I know you have.
I used to.
Okay.
I don't go anymore.
Okay.
When I realised that I wasn't getting any benefit from it, I just stopped. It used to be such a hassle, We're told to do this, go here, go there. And I used to do it quite happily. I never took anything seriously there. But eventually, because I don't really drive, I had to rope somebody else to take me along. It became too difficult to push somebody along. And then I really thought to myself, what am I getting out of this? I feel much better meditating at home and doing the real work. And I did. I applied myself to that practice. And then I found that I enjoyed myself a lot more.
Yeah.
So Seva is a help, certainly for non-initiates, certainly for people beginning on the path to meet like-minded people. How else are they going to meet people?
Sure.
It has its social aspects and so on. But for a real aspirant, once they've attained a certain point, it doesn't serve their purpose anymore. It's not that it's bad. I'm not saying don't go. But I'm just simply saying, if you're looking for that means as to gain true spirituality or some kind of merit, then you are greatly mistaken. Yes, if you have some inner experience, you're senior master with it, and now you go there to see the physical form and marvel at the way he's tricking everybody, because you know who he really is, and you see him play the game. Oh, that's different. You have no questions, you have nothing to say, just look quietly. You don't talk to anybody, you just sit quietly. Yeah, just look. Sometimes that's fun. Yeah, but eventually even that then, because it's the same old.
Wears off.
It does wear off. Because the inner, let me explain to you something else about the inner master. It is completely different to the outside master. The only resemblance they have is that they resemble each other in looks. The character of the inner master is not a master, it's a friend. When you meet the radiant form of the master, they do not stand there like some sort of headmaster with a staff and lights glowing out of them and giving you instruction. No, they greet you like a friend. They greet you like you are their family. They laugh, they joke with you. It's a whole different experience. So then you see this serious master on the outside, not even glancing your way and everything. And inside, they're all over you. They're really friendly and pally. Great greetings, welcome, so good to see you. Come on, let's this and that. And then you can meditate there because you have an astral body, let's say. We talk about the astral realm, the radiant form. And they can give you many instruction in there, or they can answer many queries. Or what they do often is show you many things about where you come from and how the creation is ordered and structured. It's really quite incredible what you'll see there. And many things, depending on the individual needs. Yeah, you'll be shown different things, but mostly the master gets you to sit and meditate when you're there, to enjoy more wonders, to get through the bunk now, the crooked tunnel that links the astral realm to the causal realm. I've spoken a lot about that in another satsang, so I won't go about that there. But let's say there's a route by which you can get to the causal realm, just a pure mind, where you lose the sensory body. Yeah, but the point is that this master, who you almost fear in this physical life, is never offended. You cannot do anything to upset him or offend him in any way. You can even swear at him. You can shoot him. He'll forgive you. Because he knows whatever you're doing is part of the script. The difference is, if you subscribe to that script, say, I am doing this, then you have to pay the price. But if you understand, Master, this is your play, what of it? So what? Right? Let it happen. Whatever's happened, let it happen. So what? Then what happens is you feel nothing. You don't feel any of it. You know when they talk about the Masters say they relieve 10% of the karma. These are all nice little quotes in the books. 10% of your karma, you have to pay back. 90% the Master takes onto themselves. No, you simply don't feel it. You only feel 10% because that's what's required for you to stay alive in this body. not for any other reason, right? So you hardly feel the effect. You're still going through the karma. The law must be obeyed. Remember, Jesus said, I've come here to uphold the law, not destroy the law. So that all masters follow the law. They do not change the law. But your awareness of suffering or any kind of worldly goings on, yes, you can lose that awareness because you're withdrawn. So if you're withdrawn with such reverence and love for your master, and only 10% of you is necessary to keep the body functioning, you only feel 10% of the karma. Yeah? That's how it actually works. So a lot of the things written in the books do have a basis to them, but when you actually experience it, it makes so much more sense because there's so much missing that ties it all together. So that's why I would say to everybody, you have the experience, then you don't need to worry about anything. You have no more questions because so much is given to you having that inner experience, much, much more than could be written in any books. And it's so much better than is written in the books. And it's also so different that the books, as Babaji said, are outright lies. They tell you many things are simply not true. They do they're old school. They do that because if you don't tell people to do something, they need discipline. If you don't give them discipline, if you don't give them a routine, they get lost. They get miserable.
And normally people want something, they want you to tell them.
And the mind wants to feel it's achieving something.
Yeah.
So all of this nonsense with the mind. But when you go within and you greet a master, you'll see how jokey they are. Even if you've done the worst crime, let's say you really you killed somebody, you brutally murdered them, when you go there to greet the master, they say, oh, you did that pretty well. From the master's point of view, everything is an occurrence. They don't attribute judgment. The judgment courts rely with Dharamrai, for non-initiates. When you're initiated, the master greets you, he's not interested. He will never say to you, what have you done? Or what have you not done? He'll never say, what good have you done in the world? What bad have you done in the world? He's not interested in the karmic body. Because he knows that the karmic body will be superseded. And it's going along, ticking along, according to the script. He's not interested in that. Because that's not you. He's interested in the soul you. So the communication with the master there is not through words, it's through telepathy, actually. You don't speak to each other at that level either. You communicate through telepathy. And telepathy has a three-dimensional approach to speech. It gives certain feelings and colorations to that, which gives it much more deeper meaning than can be spoken with words. You know, it really is an amazing experience, and I would say to everybody, go there and have a look for yourself. You think I'm exaggerating, but never fear the master, even if he looks really solemn and he's laid down the law. You must do this and you must do that. Just laugh. Okay, master. Right, laugh, because it's not in your hand. He's not like that inside. There's no strict rules or anything inside. He just greets you like a friend. Come on, and let's go. It's like that. Obviously, it would be nice if he was like that on the outside, but there's 5 million Sangha. He can't be friends to them all. So he has to play the authority figure to keep people away. Otherwise they'll be rushing, pulling at his pants and his shirt. Yeah? So to keep them away, he creates this persona of strictness. And don't come near or else I'll strike you down with one glance. The masters are the embodiment of love. Just remember that. Can they really do anything to harm you? Would they even want to? No. They neither punish you, nor even if you try to kill them, they will not punish you. That's a fact. But I'm not telling you that so you can go out and try it. Yeah, I'm just explaining that the level of the master, real master within, the Shabbat master they talk about, is so different to the physical portrayal of the master outside. It's not that the physical master outside is false. It's just that the portrayal of what they represent is not the truth. Similarly, when they answer the questions, mostly they don't tell the truth. And in fact, Babaji himself was challenged by somebody in, I think that his question answers number 127 on the tape, in which this very brave individual, but rightly so, said, why do masters tell us lies? Why do they tell us all these lies? One is to come out with the truth. And Babaji never denied that masters are the biggest lies on earth. He simply said, because you can't all take the truth. He said you can't handle it. So I have to tell you stories and half-truths to create interest. So the idea behind all of this is to create interest in you enough to go in and look at it for yourself. You know? And for those who fear going in because they think they've done something wrong in life, that the master's going to punish them or admonish them in some way, no. When the master greets anyone within, it's with love, an overwhelming sense of love and welcome. There's no other way. I can tell you that directly. There's simply no other way. Never once will the master question, what have you done here? You know, what about your education? What about your marriage? You know, how many children have you had? How much wealth did you build? Or how much good seva you've done? Or how much bad you've done? They don't care. They're not interested. The character is put to one side. And the real you, the soul you, which is the one that's been initiated, not the character, by the way, just so you know, is the one that the master is interested in. The other is just, they do make a comment, oh, you've been naughty there, never mind. Or you've done good there, oh, that was nice. But there's no meaning, there's nothing behind it. It's just like an idle chatter, you could say. Yeah? Okay, anyway, let's get on with the question.
Thank you. So still keeping with the holy truth.
Yes.
How do we get better at asking the right questions about God, the holy truth and life when it comes to our personal truth-seeking journey?
I would say just ask for the truth. There's no other way. Ask with sincerity deep within when it comes to you for the full truth, no matter what the cost. If you're brave enough, you add the second part of that line, no matter what the cost. Like Babaji says, be careful on this point, because there was actually one time at Haynes Park in the very early days when so many people kept saying to Babaji, take me to Satgurus now, take me to Satgurus now. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, right? But this is many years ago. So he said, okay. So this is at that time in the satsang hall. So he drew a line. I don't know, he had some sort of tape apparently, or something left there from when they were doing the seva, you know. So he drew this line. He got this, unrolled this tape, and he drew a line. He said, right, anyone who wants to go to Satgurus right now, cross this line. He said, but there is one condition. He said, you can't look back. You can't say bye to anyone. You can't make any amendments. You just come unconditionally. No one stepped forward. All those people claiming that they wanted to go to Satgurus, none of them stepped forward. Of course, Babaji knew that. He was just demonstrating the point. That all this chatter you do, you say you want this and why that, do you really? Because if you really wanted to do it, you'll do everything possible to get it. Wouldn't you? If you really want something, like if you really want to go home, no power on earth is going to stop you. By hook or crook, you're going to find a way home. Yeah? That's how our spiritual seeking should be. So I would say the only thing you need as a satsangi is to be a truthful seeker, to be a sincere seeker. Don't worry about asking questions or analysing or anything. Just seek. Seek with all thy heart and all thy soul. Seek earnestly, and ye shall find. Just wait and be patient. It's the seeking, the yearning. You see, this seeking yearning doesn't come from the mind. It comes from the soul. The mind translates it and calculates it. What benefit it's going to get out of it. Put the mind to one side. Forget about it. Just enjoy the intuitive feeling of seeking. If you can. If the mind is calculating, saying I've spent 2 hours seeking, so I've built up so much merit, fine, you're going to get good karma. You could do that as well. I'm not saying don't do that. but you're not going to get spiritual progress. You're going to get better karma in the next life, right? So so that's the way to answer that. Just be a really good and truthful seeker.
Thank you. Does an insight always lead you closer to the holy truth? And if so, can it not lead you towards self-deception?
Firstly, you cannot access the region of the holy truth, even when you reach Satgurus. Insight, meaning intuition, I presume. Insight's different. Intuition, if you're a genuine truth seeker, and that intuitive feeling comes with a strong kind of backing behind it, a powerful backing, then it's true. The deception part can occur if you have an intuitive feeling which is calculated, but it's disguised so it doesn't look like it's being calculated by the mind, so you think it's coming from the soul, but it hasn't got that earnestness behind it, hasn't got that power behind it, hasn't got that driving force, then it's probably going to lead you wrong. So it is good to recognize the difference between soul intuition and mindful intuition. You know, one has that definite feeling of drive behind it without any logical reasoning, no rhyme or reason, just. And the other one is calculated.
So you kind of will know the difference.
With practice. I would say with practice. It's not easy because unless you experience real intuition, you might think that your calculating one is real. All I can say to you is that real intuition has a certain behind it, a push, a power, something that you're not in control of, almost a helplessness. Yeah? If that happens, you run with it. Definitely.
I guess you know it when you
otherwise,
feel it.
I would say proceed with caution otherwise.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I've got a few questions regarding Ishwar Puriji and Perfect Living Masters. Is it true that Ishwar Puriji was one of the Sikh Gurus in the past, namely the fifth Guru?
Yes, he has been.
Was he the fifth?
Possibly. The fifth Guru was a great writer of his day. He was known, he's the third largest entry in the Guru Granth Sahib. And he wrote profusely outside of that. He was also a great intellect. So there are a lot of similarities. And he did a lot of satsangs. He gave a lot of satsangs, most of which are not recorded in the Guru Granth Sahib. You know, it's only a small snapshot. But he was well renowned for giving long satsangs. So if you think I'm talking for long, you should have been around at Guru Nanak's time. He could easily give a 4 to 5 hour satsang straight without a break.
Wow.
So you can imagine the disciples of the time. Yeah. So there is similarities. You know, Ishwarji did a lot of talks. He came from a very intellectual point of view. You know, so one could say, yes, there are similarities.
Okay, thank you. Ishwar Puriji said there has never been more than 5 to 6 masters of a lineage. What does this mean for the 10 gurus of Sikhism? Were they not all perfect living masters then? Well,
I would say Ishwarji is right.
Okay.
The maximum number of gurus in any lineage is always 5, not even 6. The 6th one usually is appointed as an interim, for example, to continue the path. So yes, if you look at up to Guru Arjan Dev, the teachings were of a particular caliber. The moment you had the 6th Guru onwards, Guru Har Gobind, who had the Miri and the Biri, the 2 swords, he adopted the 2 swords approach, which the other Gurus did not have. He became a first of the warrior Sikhs. Now that took on a wholly different aspect. Yeah, it took Sikhism in a wholly different aspect. So whilst they had the Guru Granth Sahib, thanks to Guru Arjan Dev there, they kind of went off in a little tangent. They saw themselves as defender of the people and of India, and that they should get rid of or help or protect the mainstream innocent people from the Muslim hordes. So they took on a militaristic approach, which is what Miri and Biri mean. One is the book and the other one is the sword. Yeah? You could say a jihad.
Okay.
Yeah, for Sikhs. So I think that answers the questions. Now there's two types of gurus, what I call a Satguru and a Sadguru. So from that point, many could say that up to the first 5 gurus, they were Satgurus. Proper Sant Satgurus. After that, there were Sadgurus. So they were still enlightened to a point, but maybe not the whole way. But that's not for me to say. That's for people to discover for themselves. When you go within, you'll see for yourselves exactly. But I would say that Ishviju is right.
Thank you. I remember Ishwar Puriji saying he stopped an aeroplane flying above accidentally while talking to the Sangat. How was that possible?
That didn't actually happen. Yeah. I mean, sometimes masters joke, or they don't interfere with the creation in any way. They don't. There's period. I think this is a nice story, and if it pleases one to tell the story, then tell the story. But that's not actually what happened. And I think it's a misalignment of words.
Okay, I just wondered where did it
Because if the noise suddenly stops from an aircraft, then it looks like it's been stopped or something. Coincidence, yeah. Let's say it's coincidences, and people link, they're very good at that. You have a master, surely they must have some magical powers to do something here. So let's link an event that surrounded them. It must be because of them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
How many perfect living masters are on earth today?
I would say less than 3.
Okay. Thank you. Right, next question's about Simran. What is the difference between mechanical Simran and heartfelt Simran, and how can we move towards the latter?
I think the question already knows the answer, but the second part of it answer, how can we move towards heartfelt Simran? You see, the point of having a master as the figurehead is to create a relationship with that individual. That individual represents somebody who has accepted you into their discipleship and has blessed you with the means to go back home within 4 lifetimes or less. Now, that alone should create immense gratitude, even if nothing else, even if your whole life falls apart in this lifetime, who cares, so what? The mere fact you've been initiated, you're free. No matter how bad or good this karma is in this life. So gratitude, you should exercise gratitude, immensely so. Now when you're extremely grateful, you will naturally take to Simran. That Simran will be heartfelt. Like if I really appreciate a gift you give me, and I really heartily thank you, it's genuine, it's heartfelt, isn't it? I don't have to pretend, I don't have to force myself. But if you give me something I don't really want, and I know you're doing it just to be polite, then I'll respond equally. And then that's not heartfelt. Yeah? Okay.
Thank you. Next question is about spiritual merits. Can accrued spiritual merits erase or lessen the Kriyaman karma?
I didn't understand the question. Can you say that again?
Can accrued...
Accrued. Oh, sorry, accrued.
Sorry,
okay.
am I saying it wrong?
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
My hearing may not be right. Go on.
Can accrued spiritual merits erase or lessen the Kriyaman karma? I don't know what
yes
Kriyaman
and no.
karma is.
Kriyaman karma means the karma you created in this lifetime, which is then carried on either in this lifetime, later on in life, or in the next. You see, karma is karma, and Kriyaman karma is karma. So if, for example, you gain spiritual merits, it means that you may get out of here quicker than the karma will be replayed back to you, the consequence, because it joins a stack. So from that point of view, yes. But if you're saying, does spiritual merit directly cancel the karma? No, nothing cancels the karma. But you can delay when that karma is replayed back. Hopefully to the point where you're out of here before it has to be replayed.
Sure.
Then obviously you're not there.
Thank you. Question about meditation. What are the subtle signs that one's meditation is deepening, even if no inner experiences are occurring?
There's quite a lot. Meditation is not about having inner experiences. Inner experiences are just, I could say, kind of little treats that are given to you to make you carry on, that have no spiritual merit. Yeah, unlike the way it is portrayed in the books, because the whole thing is illusion anyway, the inside and the outside. So it's your connection with the truth that actually makes a difference. It's got nothing to do with what you see inside or what you don't see. Now, when you connect with the truth, you change as a person. You'll often hear Babaji talk about attitude. You need to change your attitude, and attitude is everything. He has actually said that attitude is the only thing you can do in this life if you want to change something. But that attitude only changes because you have acquired something. So in your timeline of events, as you're progressing in the path, let's say a bit of suffering comes to you, you get slapped about here or there by karma, and you change accordingly. You're forced to change your attitude. Then the right attitude, or pious attitude, or spiritual attitude, is the most important sign or clear sign that you're making spiritual progress. Let's say, for example, you used to anger quickly, but now, having been punished for it in the past and adding a bit of literature to say it's not really a good idea, you now don't anger so quickly. Maybe 50% of the time rather than 100% of the time, which you used to do. So yeah, that's progress. Spiritual progress should be measured in your attitude. The more loving you become, the more kind, the more virtuous, the less greed, the less jealous. Those are really significant signs, and they trump any inner experience. I have known people who have lots of inner experiences in the astral realm, and they come here full of ego, they shout down their fellow man, they criticize them, they cheat them. Yeah? But they've had inner experiences. So what? That's a karmic experience. Yeah? The real progress in Samat is you changing, you becoming master-like, meaning you walk in the footsteps of the saints. The saints are there to demonstrate how to live. So the closer you align yourself to what they do and how they behave and how they take things, the closer you're getting to your goal, spiritual goal. So there is a demonstration that the gurus have. So that's another thing they do when they're physical. Or an enlightened one. You can see how they behave, how they take things. And then you can think, wow, this person, despite what was thrown at them, did not lose their balance. Yes.
I'm going to be awkward now. If it was a mature person, could they not just be mellowing with age? And just...
You mean the master or the
individual?
The individual.
Yeah, could they just not be mellowing?
They will still have the remnants of anger. The fact that they haven't got the energy to express it because they're too feeble is a different matter. I'm talking about attitude here, not physical acts. Everyone, no matter how old they are, knows how they feel. Yeah, whether they're able to express it externally, they're too decrepit, that's another matter. Yeah, but those feelings, you know, those feelings of jealousy, anger, hatred, judgment, and all these things, if you can master all these things, or it just comes to you naturally, then this is because of spiritual grace. This is spiritual grace. This is real grace. Not seeing anything within. Don't ask to see anything within. That's not. I can tell you, there's nothing much to see. It's all illusion anyway. Why bother with it?
But it looks pretty.
Yeah, it looks pretty. But you can go here for a walk in the countryside and see pretty things. You know? Yes.
If there's just 3 masters, perfect masters, are the 2 in Bios?
It's not for me to say. The perfect masters present themselves to the Sangha, to the seeker at the appropriate time. I'm not here to say this one is there, this one is there. We all know one, Babaji of Bias, well known.
Well, there's 2 there now.
Yeah, well, there's 2 there now. So, you know, but let's leave it at that. Yeah? Karen.
Okay, question about destiny. How can we recognise when we are resisting our destiny rather than flowing with it?
Because life is difficult. It's like swimming against the current of a river. If you try to go upstream against the flow, it's really a struggle, isn't it? But if you go with the flow, it's easier. The easiest way for somebody, without analysing too much, is to see how it feels. Are they ticking along quite nicely because they're just going with the flow, which is what they should do, go with the flow. Spiritual path, what can you do? Just go with the flow. Whatever comes your way, go with it. Deal with it appropriately. You don't go with it. If you try to fight against the karma, then you're the one who's going to suffer. You're going to have a hard time with it.
I think you've answered the next question. How should we respond spiritually when life brings unexpected suffering or loss?
Take it on the chin.
Go.
Just ignore it. This is paying off karma. Never react badly. Just let it pass. If you react to it and feel grudged by it and seek revenge, you have to come back to pay that price. So don't. Just let it pass.
Okay.
As nothing. Just the wind.
Next question is about stillness. How can we cultivate inner stillness in a world full of noise, distraction and overstimulation?
So the easiest way is to withdraw yourself from the hustle and bustle. Find a quiet room. And if they're talking about meditation, stillness in meditation, they need to adjust their life, if they can, to match their goal. So if their goal is to be able to sit in holy meditation, in remembrance of their Lord, then they need to set out their life that's conducive for that. They can't do things that cause them to be irritated or have difficulties and so on. They should minimize the load that puts pressure on the mind, so that they can, and they should prepare for meditation, so that when they sit in meditation, they can be peacefully still. Yeah?
Yeah.
But from the world, just withdraw from the hustle and bustle.
Sure. It sounds easy, doesn't it?
All these things are easy if you can do it. If it's in your script. The key thing is in your script. But since you're asking me, I'm telling you what can be done. But whether you're able to do it, nobody's asked me, am I able to do it? They're asking me what should be done. So I'm telling you what the ideal is. But can you do it? That's another matter.
It's whether it's the time's ready for you
Yes.
to do it.
When the time comes, you'll do it.
Okay. Question on the mind. Could you please share any tips on training our mind to take more of a back seat in order to navigate life more from intuition?
Well, like with anything, if you focus on something positive, the negative fades. Yeah? So if you focus on your spiritual practice or on noble things, then naturally the troublesome mind fades. Because the idea of using the mind's power of attention is to focus on something. Like if I was to focus on the wall and just look at a picture, everything else fades. Naturally fades. That's the power of focusing our attention, right? We can use that same facility in life. If you focus on the positive and the good and the noble, then everything else just falls away. So I would say, if you can, again, focus on the positive and see what happens.
Thank you. Question about ego. What is the most effective way to weaken the ego without creating a new spiritual ego?
You can't weaken the ego. The ego is your own identity. It's your own mind. What you can do is rise above it. So by practicing the principles given to you in Sant of living the noble life, living the pious life, do no harm and so on, and then seeking within, doing a meditation, all of this helps to bypass the ego. The only way to crush the ego is to suffer. And if you really want to crush the ego, ask for dukh. Say, please make me a dukhi, make me a sufferer. Yeah, all the time, until I have nothing left in me to battle with. You could do that. And actually that is a way. Some spiritual paths do follow that route. In India. Oh yeah, they do. And some of them, because they're not feeling they're punished enough, they whip themselves. They see that they whip because they want to be in constant suffering.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions about energy. This is the first question, and there's about 3 questions in there. but I can repeat them. This is regarding the evil eye. I think it's termed nazar in India.
Nazar.
Nazar,
Yeah.
okay. Is it true that negative energy, intentions, or envy can affect a person? Many cultures, including in India, perform rituals to remove the evil eye phenomenon. Is there any value to these practices, or is it just cultural superstition? If the evil eye is true, can doing Simran remove it?
Goodness, many parts of the
Do you want
question.
the first question?
Oh, you mean that wasn't the question?
No, there's three there. I can go back to the first one.
Right, the first one about Nazar. Is
it true that negative energy, intentions, or envy can affect the person?
No.
Okay.
But there's always a but.
Yeah.
Right?
We like the buts.
If you don't subscribe to it, in other words, you give it no energy, then any negativity that comes your way loses power, particularly if you're a positive person. So if you're a very positive person, you do your spiritual practice, nothing can touch you. People can do nazar all day long at you, hundreds of it. They can multiply it, and it won't affect you. But if you really believe in it, and you really feel that this harm has come to you, then you're inviting negativity into you, then yes, it can affect you. But not because somebody's done it, but because you are inviting a negativity into you. So that's the two-prong answer to that. But for most people, it doesn't affect them because they're not even aware. If you're not even aware that somebody's done so-called nazar to you, and then later on somebody points it out, then how could it affect you? It only affects you if you're aware of it and you believe in it. Then your mindset gets all worried and you're more likely to have an accident or do something unless I see. You know.
So those who perform these rituals to remove this.
Oh, this is just a money making or a glory seeking. It's no point to that. It doesn't work.
Okay, so Simran can't remove this evil.
No, it's Simran. Okay, I said about spiritual practice, creating a positive environment. Mm-hmm. If you're bound by a powerful positive force, nothing can touch you, not even Carl himself. In fact, Carl is scared of you if you're positive. Carl, when he looks to torment somebody, according to the concepts, he first looks at the face of the follower, and the person who's done a lot of spiritual practice and is very positively strong, Carl runs away from them even. Even mighty Carl cannot face somebody who's strongly positive, let alone some worldly guy or woman. Yeah, if you build up that strong positivity of faith in your Lord and Master, and a positivity about being a good and noble being, and you're striving towards it, even if you're not perfect, nothing can touch you.
Okay, thank you. Still keeping in with this energy talk. This is regarding Vastu and Feng Shui. In India and China, they believe in Vastu and Feng Shui, where they teach that the orientation and arrangement of all living spaces affect our energy and life. However, some of their principles are different. For example, in India, they say one's head should never be pointing north when sleeping. However, in Feng Shui, the ideal direction depends on the calculated Hua number. How much importance should one give to these principles? Is there any truth to this?
Spiritually, they have no significance. But mentally and physically, yes, they do help you have a more peaceful existence in a certain space. So if a room has been feng shuied correctly, when you go into that room, you'll feel peace and calm and harmony. It does nothing for your spiritual enlightenment, but it makes you feel good. These things are not spiritual. They're designed to just make life a bit more comfortable. And the two systems operate differently. See, in India, the Vastu system was designed for India itself. So this idea of putting your head to the north in India and other little variations which differ from Feng Shui is specific for the Indian community in India. You have to understand that this is devised for people living in a certain place at a certain location in the world, and they've worked out that if you do it this way, statistically, these are all based on statistics, by the way, they're not absolutely foolproof. Statistically, you're going to have a better time of it.
Thank you.
But if you want to do it, no harm in indulging in these things. It's harmless.
Okay. Last question regarding energies. Can negative energies and their effects be nullified through prayer, feng shui, or meditation, or anything else?
I'll say anything positive. Positive nullifies negative. Let's put it that way. If you do something positive that is counter to whatever the negative is, then of course it affects it. And out of that, out of the list given, meditation would definitely be the preferred. Because meditation builds a great positive aura around you. So more than the other things. So it nullifies negative energies wherever you go. So a person who is, let's say, a good meditator, and they go to a very war-torn place, they will not be affected by the negativity and misery of that place. That's why masters witness all these wars going on that we hear about in the news, but they're not affected. They're the embodiment of positivity. They know that everything's ticking along according to the plan. The planet itself has evolution, it's also evolving. The humans, the nations also have their own karma. The individuals within that nation has its own karma. Everything is going according to the script. What is there to change, alter, or modify? Then what you're saying is that the Lord got it wrong. Yeah? Meaning you got it wrong.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you. I've got a couple of questions regarding the living environment.
Okay.
Is it inadvisable to purchase a property where the previous occupant passed away under unusual circumstances, such as suicide or other tragic means?
I mean, if you're a worldly person and these sort of things bother you, then yeah, it would affect you. Because remember, wherever you put your attention to, you create energy. So if you're dwelling on this when you're sitting there, yeah, it's going to affect you negatively. But if you're a satsangi and it's a really good deal and you're getting it for 50% because somebody was murdered there, I'll say get it. Do your meditation. One bout of 2.5 hours meditation there will clear everything.
Yeah, I like that.
Go for the deal if you're a satsangi.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, next question regarding living environment. How might living in such a place affect an ordinary person compared to someone who is initiated, talking about the same scenario?
Well, exactly the same way. A person who's initiated, particularly if they're practicing, have nothing to worry about. They can live anywhere.
If they're not focusing on the negative.
Yeah. Well, if they're initiated and doing their practice, they're not going to be focusing outside.
Okay.
However, if somebody's initiated and they're a lousy practitioner, 50-50, right? And if they're not initiated, well, yeah, they're gonna really take into effect everything that's happening around them. They're going to get absorbed in it. They're going to think about it, dwell about it. It affects them fully. So it depends who is going there.
Okay, thank you. Got a couple of questions about the future now. If there is an economic collapse coming, what would that do to the cost of living in the West?
Okay. Yes, there is great troubles coming ahead for the West. And it's already started. And it's getting on the way. Certain conflicts will lead to breaking up of certain partnerships. And as a result, trade wars and other little difficulties will be affected. Energy prices will go up and so on. Yes, there is great difficulty coming ahead for us. Yeah.
Okay. Still about the future.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to a talk by a spiritual practitioner who stated that in 2028 and 2029 there shall be many wars in many parts of the world, and there could be a lockdown just like the COVID era when no one could travel. The question is, could you please enlighten us more on this time period of 28 and 29?
I'm not here to be a prophet to make predictions.
Darn.
I can say that this decade, the 2020s, is a very difficult decade for humanity. overall. And as it comes to the end of that decade, it comes to a climax of difficulties. So I would say, yes, more things are to come. Not necessarily exactly the way they describe, but more things are to come. This is definitely a very revolutionary decade. As I mentioned in the beginning of this decade, when it started, that many unrests will occur. Nations, there'll be civil war, civil disputes, unrests, political intrigues, and so on. There's a lot to come. When we hit to the 2030s, things will settle down.
Okay.
But yes, there are difficulties coming our way.
Thank you. I've got one more question, so if anyone's got any questions, you can get them ready. This question relates to science, good old science.
Well, it is my background as well.
Shoot, okay, this might take half an hour then.
Okay.
What are the biggest assumptions of science?
Goodness.
Yeah.
What a question. How long have you got?
You can choose where you want to go with this one. What you might have heard a lot of people
it really
say
depends
maybe.
on your perspective, what you consider to be a big assumption. Let's say misconceptions. Let me translate that as misconceptions in science. The biggest misconceptions are that there is no dimension of existence for human beings beyond the physical. In other words, everything that happens to us and everything that relates to us is only confined to the physical. There's no dimension beyond the physical. In other words, the spiritual realms don't exist, and consciousness, they don't understand consciousness even yet. There's a big debate about what consciousness actually is. So, despite all the evidence to show that consciousness can exist outside of a physical body, science is still, they can't accept this, because their premise is that the physical is everything. Nothing exists, there's no metaphysical, there's no superphysical, right? So it has to be within the physical. That's number one. The second thing is how this creation was created. Now they adopt something called the Big Bang Theory, which is actually not true. The inflation theory that's coming to replace it is closer to the mark. Still not 100%, but closer to the mark. So I think the old standard model in science of the Big Bang and a particular group of particles that are associated with that is actually wrong. Yeah, and that's another, let's say, big misunderstanding in science. And because this fundamental part of creation is wrong, all the things that follow, like all the expected particles that the equations should show, have a great deal of particles missing from them. Like there's a little grid in which they have a certain number of particles. I won't bore you with all the details of them. Some of them have got very strange names. But they consider that, once they discover the Higgs boson, to be complete. They say, right, apart from the graviton, which they're still looking for, we know what all the particles are in the universe. That everything in the universe is governed by these particles. However, there are a lot of anomalies detected by, say, radio astronomers and telescopes, which indicate that there's something else going on. Other forces, other things at work that shouldn't be happening, yet they are. So the observation of things, which is true, goes against the theoretical model. And they say that in science, if the theory doesn't stack up to observation, you should write it off. Yeah, I mean, if I do an experiment to check to see if there's milk in that corner, and I go there and there's no milk, then the odds of milk being behind a brown table has to be written off, isn't it? So the observation doesn't match the theory, the hypothesis. That's how science works. You have a hypothesis, you test it through observation and experimentation. If the experiments don't back up the hypothesis, you change the hypothesis. Yeah? And you do it again, and then you experiment to prove that. That's how science works. That's how it moves along. So there are certain things we know for sure. A lot of science is speculation. A lot of them are theoretical until they were discovered, until they become discovered. So there are many particles. For example, there's dark matter and dark energy, which they've attributed, which is actually correct. But these are interdimensional substances that link this universe with other similar related universes, which is one of many physical universes. So they got the idea that there's a parallel universe, a multiverse, they call it as well, more than one, but they have no idea how it all works with us, you know. But the presence of dark matter, dark energy, is a real mystery in science. And they're trying to desperately figure out what it is. And the reason why they can't measure it in any way is because it doesn't follow the known laws of physics. Yeah? If it doesn't follow anything that you understand, how are you going to measure it? What instrument are you going to create? You're going to create an instrument based upon the known laws. If something exists beyond the known laws, what instrument can you make? So, another little misconception. You know, the other big one is Darwin's theory of evolution, which is not true either. Humans did not come from the apes. Yeah, there's this linear evolution, or even evolution theory that one species can then eventually be modified to create another species. No, you can have variations within a species, but there's never been any evidence to indicate of any fossil record or anything that a completely new species was created from a particular species. The biggest problem science has is the Cambrian period, about 543 million years ago. During that period, so there's a clear divide in the geological record, in the archaeological record. So before 543 million years, you had simple life forms, single cells, maybe a couple of multiple cells, but that was it. Suddenly, and they call it a Cambrian explosion, 543 million years ago, over the next few million years, all the plant and animal kingdoms that we know today suddenly came on the fossil record, as if by magic from nowhere, with no intermediaries.
No link.
No intermediaries. So this is the problem. According to Darwin's evolution, you have an intermediary. Like evolution is a gradual process. You should find all the intermediaries. Where are the intermediaries? They don't exist. You suddenly have this explosion.
So
where did all that come from?
They're just accepted.
They don't. They avoid it. If you talk to any evolutionists, they don't want to talk about that. You know, when you talk about that Cambrian explosion, oh, you're talking in dark territory here. Don't do that because they'll shoot you. Yeah, they don't want to talk about it. It's a real sore point. Yeah. The other problem is with, say, humans, is that we, as I've written in the book, we actually came into being around 287,000 years ago. The problem is, in human beings, and this is another dilemma that they have in science, the chromosome 2, which one of the chromosomes of the human species, has actually been split and cut. The telomeres, like a chromosome is a strand of DNA that has a certain messaging, and it's ended by something called telomeres, like two tails. Let's say it's got a couple of tails on each end. Now, in nature, there is no known way of splicing a chromosome and joining it end to end with another chromosome without any tails. It does happen through natural selection and evolution, but they show the tails. In humans, the tails have been cut off, and the two chromosomes that make chromosome 2 and chromosome 2A have been joined together. And this particular chromosome relates to our brain function, our ability to, our great intelligence. Nobody knows fully what this chromosome does, but we know it relates to brain function and many other things that give us the edge over, say, the apes. So despite the fact that we are 98% identical to the apes chromosome-wise, 2% difference should not be so significant. We should not be so significantly different to the apes. Another evolutionary problem is that any improvement in the evolutionary scale always gives a better survival ability. Humans can't survive on their own in the environment. They need shelter, they need clothes, they need a whole host of things to survive. No other animal species has this problem. All of them can survive in the natural environment without any tools or aids. Similarly, human beings are the only animal that get sunburn. So if we were genetically made here, if we were from here alone, why would we be affected by a yellow sun? Why would we get sunburn? Yeah. Another thing is this: human beings are again the only creatures in which our nails and hair continues to grow forever and a day. Now, this is obviously anti-evolutionary, because if you let your nails forever grow, as some people have done in India, they grow these like almost 6-foot nails. You can't eat, you can't survive, you can't hunt, you can't do anything to survive. You have to physically cut those nails.
Okay, I'm going to be awkward here then.
Go on.
Is it because, I don't know, humans would have developed certain knowledge to put suntan lotion on, so therefore they wouldn't burn from the sun?
No.
Do you know what I mean? I'm just being awkward.
If you look at any other, if there was another animal that had superior, higher up on the tree of life, but they lacked in survival instincts, their survival abilities, then yeah, you could say, okay, this is a common trait. But there isn't. Human beings are the only ones. They're also frail. A chimpanzee, which was supposed to come from the bonobo, according to Darwinian, is 6 times stronger than us. Yeah? There's many evolutionary traits. Plus, we also, according to Darwinian theory, survival of the fittest, the law of the jungle, and the selfish gene idea, that Richard Dawkins means that we will always try to procreate, to pass on our genes. We should be having a natural urge to mate with everything we see in sight, to pass on our genetic code. But human beings could abstain. They could become celibate. They could defy the evolutionary theory that we must procreate. We're here to procreate the species at any cost. Also, that the law of the jungle applies. We can sacrifice ourselves for another. Therefore, we can sacrifice a life to save another. That's not a survival instinct. So there are many things that don't fit the evolutionary theory. So that,
but yet we still maintain it. It's
because, changing a whole system. Imagine for 150 years they've taught evolution theory in schools. Now they're going to suddenly say, oh, by the way, we were engineered.
But it's so obvious though.
Well, yeah, only because I pointed out to you.
Yeah, true.
If you don't know, it's not obvious.
Now you have. It's like, surely somebody else somewhere else is saying this.
There are. The trouble is that there's a vast majority that want to know. I mean, they all know this, but they don't want to entertain it. Because their careers depend on it. Imagine you're a professor at a university. You're getting paid to teach something. And suddenly you decide, I'm going to be rogue. I'm going to go against it. You'll be out of every institution. Nobody will employ you.
Wow, yeah.
So there is a practical side to it. Not all professors are rogues. That they do know. Privately, if you speak to them, they'll say, yeah, we agree. But we're still going to teach the old outdated theory because that pays our bills. Yeah? And the problem is also with research. I mean, how to get research. Me working in research, I know about how you get research grants. Yeah, you fiddle the system, and now you see that you can make up a theory or come out with something to get research funding. It happens all the time, and nothing ever comes of it. And they just simply say that the research was done and it becomes inconclusive. Thank you for the dollars.
And they probably knew in the beginning anyway.
Oh yeah, they knew that. They already knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big thing. The research grants are a big scam. It's well known in the science industry. Right. That and people say they need a bit more money. They say, what can we think of to get a research grant? So they'll invent something totally outrageous. But let's say they're at top of their game or they're fairly high up. The government, who are administrators and finance, have no scientific knowledge. They don't know their toe from their finger, right? When the scientist comes to them and comes up with this elaborate paper, they're going to say, yeah, sounds good. Okay, we'll give you some funding. Because if you make something of this, we'll then enter the world stage for having a discovery. That university or that thing will get recognition. Yeah, it's it's a well-known thing and difficult to manage. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, well anyway, those are the misconceptions in science. I could go more, but I won't.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
If your master's passed away, is it true that it becomes a lot more difficult to progress?
This has been said, no, but his answer is actually no. You see, the promise the master made when you're initiated was that he will take you home by hook or by crook. What does happen is your mind no longer has a focus. Because you've lost your master now, it's more likely that your mind will become distracted. Therefore, your attitude towards the spiritual practice may diminish a little bit. And that would give the impression that you're not making progress. But fortunately, spiritual progress is not dependent on your efforts. Because if it was, none of us would go home. None of us are good enough. Because actually, Sant is 24/7 on the go. You should forsake everything of the world and only concentrate. That's the ideal. Who does it? Except for a perfect saint who has nothing in their life except devotion, bhakti to their master. And that's why they're saints. Who does it? Very rare individual. Surrender so completely to their master that they don't care about anything. You know? So no, it doesn't. But I would say, if anything, the first 2 years after the master departs, more spiritual progress can be made with the same effort. So let's say you spend 5 minutes of meditation, you're given the 2.5 hours. There's a special grace period for 2 years after the master passing. So I'll say it's the exact opposite. And then that disappears. No, don't worry about things like that. Just do the best you can to be a good, noble satsangi. Do your practice. And don't subscribe to any of these myths and these theories. People always try to put you down. You know, there's no such thing. The promise of the master doesn't change just because they physically left. Then you're limiting the master to the physical. Why bother with that master then? If my master can only operate in the physical, I should find somebody who operates within. No, but the master is operating within. If anything, your spiritual practice gains more merit. The more the effort you put in, they give you that bit extra to compensate for the lack of the mind. So it's the exact opposite. Okay. Yes, anything else? Now you're all fully enlightened. That's really good to see. I think if there's no more questions, then shall we break for lunch?
So dehi paje har ki sev bhajo gobind phul mat ja मानस जानम का एही ला